All right, so we are up and running now. Okay. Yay, a little late, but we're there. All right, so let me talk about this. So you've been trained in CPR, you're currently CPR certified, and you're working in a facility, and a visitor goes down in the hallway, and you are told that your facility doesn't want you to touch the visitor. Don't perform anything on them. So the first thing that I would do is go look at the policy. You want to know this beforehand, right? You need to look at the policy and procedure, because remember, when somebody is training you, somebody else trained them, and somebody else trained them, and somebody else trained them. And it's like a giant game of telephone, right? So you may be told something 5 years ago, and in your mind, it has changed a little bit, and you're passing that information on 5 years later. So you're probably not getting all the fine details there, right? So when you're in orientation, whatever they're telling you, you should always verify with the written policies and procedure. That's why we have written policies, because we can't rely on verbal. It changes, right? So that's the first thing that I would ask is that really the company policy? And the reason is, if they require CPR training and certification, okay, if that's a condition of employment, and then they have a policy that says you can't use it, that sets them up for a lawsuit. Because you know that family's going to say, let's say that, Mabel's there visiting her husband, and she has a heart attack in the hallway and falls down, and everybody just stands around and stares. Nobody does anything, right? And you're going to say, well, the policy says I'm not allowed to. Well, Mabel's family is going to sue, because they had a heart attack. There were medical people around and nobody did anything, right? So the first thing that lawyer is going to do is pull that policy and procedure. And your explanation of, well, I was told, isn't going to fly. So you got to know what that policy procedure says. Does that kind of make sense? So that's the first thing. And historically, this really is a big deal. You know, the worst place to have a heart attack? No, as a patient in a hospital. It's the worst place to have a heart attack. Yeah, because you hit the call light because you're having chest pain and nobody comes because they think you want ice water. You start screaming down the hallway, they'll ignore you thinking that you're just old. The worst place to have a heart attack is as a patient in a hospital recovering from something else. You're here for pancreatitis, dude, not for a heart attack. It wasn't on my schedule. We're not going to plan for this. Yeah, what are you doing? Right? But we have to remember that emergencies happen even in a hospital, or even in a nursing home, or even in a rehab when you're recovering from a stroke. An emergency can still happen. And that's what call lights are all about. But they're also used because patients need help getting out of bed and to the bathroom. So they hit the call light. And when you've got 20 patients and call lights going off like crazy, it gets overwhelming. So you start thinking, well, I was just in there, they can wait. So here's a real life story about an emergency that happened right here in our community. This was an evening shift, 3 to 11. Call comes into 911 that a resident is vomiting a lot of blood at a nursing home. And they're like, look, you got nurses, and it was the roommate that called. And he said, yeah, we've been screaming for help and nobody has come. We need help. Because what's the one thing that you've been trained to do from the time you were this tall when there's an emergency? Call 911. So when you hit the call light, nobody comes. What's your next option? Call 9, because you're trying to get help, right? So the nurses had no idea this was going on. So it's kind of a skeleton crew. It's like 10 o'clock at night. The building's locked, right? So the nurse at the nurse's station hears this pounding on the front door. Pound, pound, pound. Goes out the front, sees lights, opens the door. She's like, what? You know, what's going on? And they said, you have an emergency in your facility. She says, no, I don't. I didn't call. No, you've got an emergency in your facility. The roommate called. So they go in, and this guy had esophageal varices, which is varicose veins in the food tube, right, where you swallow. And esophageal varices can often, they're very thin walled, so they can rupture. And when they rupture, that blood, you know, gravity drains down into your stomach. Stomach doesn't like blood, so it sends it back. And this is projectile vomiting of blood. I mean, it's like a horror movie. It is horrible. And this patient is freaking out because they think they're dying. And honestly, they were, because of the amount of blood. The roommate's freaking out because horror show, right? Nobody is helping. Oh my gosh. And the nurse had no idea any of this was going on. But legally, she's responsible. Can you imagine?
See, that was the same thing when I was mentioning like the skeleton crew. When I asked when we were just discussing about the seizures, like your night shift where you do have a skeleton crew, and your nurses, maybe one per unit, is doing treatments on one side. You've got maybe 2 CNAs. You're on one side of that hallway, and there's like, and it loops around, and your guy over here is having a seizure. You can't leave them. You can't scream for help because no one's going to hear you. Have your phone call 911, use a facility phone call 911 if you can, if they're stable, like in the midst of having a seizure.
But in reality, so let me, that's going to be against your policy.
Go to nursing.
CNAs do not call 911.
Nurse does.
Well, and nurses very rarely call 911, because think about, what do you, when you pick up the phone and you call 911, who are you trying to get? Maybe police, maybe an ambulance, but you're trying to get somebody that has more training to handle these situations than you do. Right, right. You've already got somebody right there. You've got a nurse, right? So calling 911 to get somebody with more training, and they have to travel to get there, is kind of counterproductive when you've already got a nurse that has more training, right? That's why CNAs do not call 911. Because the whole purpose of calling 911, you have to think about, why are we calling 911? We're calling 911 because we don't want to deal with the problem. We need somebody else to deal with it. This is way beyond my pay grade. Somebody else is going to come deal with this, right? That's why we're calling. Well, you've already got that somebody right there. So in almost every facility now, you guys are issued phones. And on the other side of that phone is a nurse. All you gotta do is hit their extension. So if you have a patient who's having a seizure, instead of picking up that same phone and calling 911, you should pick up that same phone and call the nurse. Hey, I'm in room 312 and this guy's having a seizure. It's been going on now for like 20 seconds. I'm protecting him for injury, but can you get over here? Yeah, this is way beyond my ability level. I'm letting you know, dropping it in your lap. This is now your problem. Thank you very much. I'll stay here till you get here. And then, you know, the nurse can figure out what to do. And the nurse may say, okay, you need to, because we have a skeleton crew, I can only do so much, right? So I may tell you, you need to call 911 for me. This is what I want you to tell them while I remain with the nurse. And then go unlock the doors to let them in or whatever. So you're going to take your direction from the nurse. Does that make sense?
It does.
But in most cases, if you've got a patient who has a visitor, who has a medical situation on the campus, then it is our obligation to intervene. We do have that obligation. If we just stand there and let something happen, that will result. It will. I mean, that's not a maybe, man. Every lawyer in the county would line up for that case. That will result in a lawsuit. Absolutely. Because I mean, how absolutely just mind-boggling is that for you to, as a medical professional, let somebody die in front of you because they aren't a patient, because you're not getting paid for that job, so you're going to let them die. Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah.
Insurance doesn't cover.
I would be mortified.
I would be too.
Yeah, so we have to think about this bigger picture rather than just our little tiny slice of it. But this happened at a local hospital not too long ago. Somebody actually had a heart attack in the parking lot. Yeah. Oh, walking in, has a heart attack, goes down in the parking lot. And thankfully, an employee was walking out to their car, happened to see this, ran over, started CPR, yelled super loud, got attention. ER people came out, put him on a gurney, took him in, and actually saved the guy's life. And this was not an ER nurse that was out in the park. This was just I can't remember what they were, but it wasn't a CNA, but it was like a something else. But everybody has to be CPR certified.
Yeah, next Monday. My
CPR first aid. Yeah, CPR is easy. Everybody stresses out it. CPR is a no-fail class. You can't fail it. Their job, the CPR instructor's job, is to make sure that you know enough that when you get out there, you'll be able, it's just drills, so that you don't have to think. Their job is to make sure you know it before you leave. It's not CPR instructors sometimes really get under my skin because they want to make themselves feel important. It is not a pass-fail class. I teach 9-year-olds to do CPR. Every one of my children knew how to perform CPR according to current regulations before they were 10 years old. But I also used to teach at the elementary school. So this is not a hard thing, guys. Push hard, push fast in the center of the chest. Make sure that your elbows don't get floppy. And make sure you yell for help, because you don't want to be doing this all day. It is a workout. It is a workout. So that's CPR. If you're pushing for a long time and nobody's there and there's no, big help coming, give them a couple breaths, right? Because you pushed all the oxygen they got around their body, give them a little more. You don't have to stress out over, oh my gosh, is it 30-2 or 15-1 and the standards changed? And guys, keep the body alive until somebody more qualified can get there. Now, it's helpful if we're all doing it on the same page, right? So if I'm pushing on somebody's chest and you walk up and say, hey, I know CPR, can I help? We're on the same page. So 30 compressions, 2 breaths, 30 compressions, 2 breaths. That way you know when to breathe and know when to switch, because my arms are killing me now. So let's switch. So that's all CPR is let's stay on the same page. It's not, oh my gosh, you got to pass this to be able. That's ridiculous. It's not that kind of a class. But there are some instructors out there that, man, make this yeah, seriously extra. Yeah. Chill, dude. You're teaching CPR. you know, when I used to teach CPR, this is what I would tell my students, especially those that are all stressed out when they walk, and you can see them, man, the people that are stressed out over, oh my gosh, I got to take a CPR class. Have a donut is all right. You're starting out with a dead body. There's nothing you can do to make this day go any worse for that guy. He is dead. If you are doing CPR on a not dead body, you missed the point. We don't do CPR on not dead. You are starting out on a dead body. You can't make this any worse than it already is. You're not trying to bring him back. That is not your job. You are not trying to bring this person back from the dead. All you are trying to do is circulate what little oxygen they have in their blood until somebody more qualified comes in that has the medications and the machine that can bring them back to the dead. That is not your job. All you are doing is pumping. That's it. You are pumping the heart. You are doing the heart's work. That's it. That is all CPR is. And once you put it in those terms, man, people just start to relax. Okay, they're dead. I can't kill them anymore. And all I'm doing is pumping. I'm not trying to bring anybody back. All right, well, that's easy. I can do that. So when you put it in those terms, it does make CPR so much easier. But more importantly, it's going to make CPR so much easier when you have to do it. Because now you don't have any pressure. You're not trying to bring this person back. That is not your job. Your job is to circulate that blood until somebody else can maybe bring them back. Hopefully. That's all you're trying to do. You can't mess that up, guys. Just push hard and fast. Keep pushing hard and fast. Don't stop pushing hard and fast. Let's just keep pushing, because I have found that compression does a whole lot more than press. But if you're pushing for a long time, we're going to use up the oxygen the patient's got. So let's give him a little bit more. Now we're going to breathe a little. Yeah, the hardest place I've ever done CPR, and I've done a lot of CPR, guys. I worked in an ICU unit. I mean, I was a trauma rapid response team nurse. So I have done a lot of CPR. But the most uncomfortable place I did CPR was in a plane. I was coming back from London, from England, and the plane was only like half full. So I had this whole row to myself on a transatlantic flight. It was awesome. So I'm all stretched out, cat napping, on this long flight. And I hear that call. Are there any doctors or nurses on board? And you look around. Anybody else? Because I'm catnapping. Anybody, and nobody answered. Crap. Me, I'm a nurse. Yeah, oh man. So this guy in first class, he was not looking so good. He's all gray and sweaty, and his pulse rate is super high. I got like cuticle trimmers, I have nothing. There is nothing here. We're on a lane. And this is back in the early 2000s where AEDs weren't all that common. So I got nothing to hook this guy up to, no monitor, nothing. It's just me and a guy 30,000 feet in the air. What am I supposed to do with this, really? So I told the stewardess, I said, the first thing I need is oxygen. I know you've got some. Can you ask the pilot to drop the O2 for me? And turns out, and this is kind of interesting, I didn't know this because I figured they had to drop, the whole plane, right? Everything, all the oxygen things are going to drop. Everybody back there is going to freak out, think we're going down or whatever. So no, they've actually got a key where they can unlock that row of oxygen masks. Cool. So I learned something. So they unlocked it. Oxygen comes down. I put it on him. And I know this guy. I know this guy's having a heart attack. He is in the process of having a heart attack. There's not a thing I could do. Nothing but hold his hand. and wait. So I've got it, of course it's medical emergency. They radio ahead, they, get cleared for landing. And this is a big dude. And he's got a seatbelt on in his chair, and airline chairs don't recline that far, So he's not looking good. I mean, he is really not looking good, but he's still somewhat conscious, very confused. And I'm like, looked at the stewardess and said, we got to get him on the floor. She says, no, we're landing. He's got to be in the, I can't do CPR with him in this position, and he's going to need it before we land. We got to get him on the floor. Now, the aisles are only this wide. The dude is this wide, so how the heck are we going to do this? So that was the most uncomfortable place I've ever done CPR, is in the aisle of a plane as it was landing. Yeah. Dude made it though. Pretty cool.
That was an exciting trip.
I've never, ever, ever gone back. Never. So, statistically speaking, you are more likely to perform CPR outside of your workplace. So don't learn CPR for work. You'll probably never use it for work. Learn CPR for your aunt's 40th anniversary. Learn CPR for your 2-year-old cousin that fell in the pool. Learn CPR for your dad. That's who you need to learn CPR for, because you're much more likely, infinitely more likely, to have to use life-saving techniques on somebody much closer. Make sense? All right, so let me get your scores on 8 and 9. This is on page 139 and 140.
85 for 8.
Selenia, okay. I'm hoping, guys. 85 for 8. 100 for 9. Very good. Olivia? Thank you. Fa?
90 on 8 and 100 on 9.
Thank you. Kat? Thank you. Ray?
I did 7 and 9.
Very good. Very good. Millie?
100 for 8 and 95 for 9.
Thank you. Sierra? Thank you. Rachel? Anybody seen Rachel at all? No. Okay. All right. So does anybody have any questions on what we've gone over so far? How do we know what to do with each patient? Is care plan going to be same for everybody? No. In fact, if you've got 2 care plans that look exactly alike, you have a lazy nurse. That's the way it is. That is the way it is. Remember, on my YouTube channel, I get a lot of comments, right? So one of my old video from, don't look at those. They are awful. Oh my gosh, they're horrible. But my 2012 videos from range of motion, hip, knee, and ankle, I demonstrate all 3 exercises: flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, and rotation. But remember, for the test, our care plan doesn't have us do all 3 exercises. It just has us do flexion, extension. So the newer videos from 2016 just have flexion, extension. Okay. So somebody put a comment on my YouTube channel. I don't understand. Why in your first video do you have all 3 exercises, and in your second video you only have 1? What happened to the other exercises, and what do I have to do on the test? So my comment was, you're going to follow the care plan. The response was, what's a care plan? So understand that and I have to reiterate this just in case, right? But understand that what I'm showing you to do isn't the whole story. It's there's, you know, every patient out there is going to have a different range of motion care plan. Every hand and nail care will be done a little bit differently. Every partial bed bath is going to, you know, have to tell you what you're washing. So remember that that care plan is going to be super important to you. But in a clinical setting, sometimes we have routine. And I wanted to talk about this because we understand the care plan now. We understand that it's based on the patient's needs and that everyone is going to be different. But we also in facilities have routines to follow. Now, those routines can kind of go hand in hand or even sometimes supersede the care plan. So your care plan may say vital signs every 8 hours, but your routine on this floor is to do vital signs every 4 hours. That's just, everybody gets vital signs every 4 hours. That's just how we do it here. That's this floor, that's the routine. And even though the care plan says every 8 hours, our routine is every 4, we're going to go by the routine. Okay. The routine may be that you, when you come in on a day shift, you find out who needs grooming setups and you go set them all up. Anybody that needs actual grooming, you're going to help them out with that. It may not be on the care plan, that may be the routine. So you're just going to go in, hey, do you want, you know, the stuff to brush your teeth and brush your hair and shave? What do you need help with? I'm here to help. Just kind of go around the room, right? Other places will be very, you know, long-term care will be very routine oriented. You know, Harvey gets shaved every Tuesday and Friday. He's got an electric shaver. So routines can often supersede a care plan for just basic general body maintenance. Anything special will be focused on in the care plan. Okay, does that make sense? So your policies and procedures, really, your routines for the facility are going to kind of give you a broad overview, and your care plan will help you tailor it a little bit more. Does that make sense? So when you go to work anywhere, doesn't pick a place, I don't care. When you go to work, you are going to get an orientation period where you're going to be shown around by somebody that works there. And they're going to tell you what the routines are. This is how we do things here. If it's short-term care, you want to pay attention to your report. If it's long-term care, you want to pay attention to the routine. Okay, that's going to be the big difference. Because in hospitals, patients change, they're admitted, they're discharged, they're transferred. You'll never have the same patients 2 days in a row. Everything's changing. And long-term care, the patients never change. Okay, so it really is going to, where you work is going to dictate how all this works.
Would you say it's better to work in a hospital or in like a medical? My mom is like dying for me to work in a hospital.
She probably watches way too much Grey's Anatomy.
She's always talking about all the benefits, this, that.
Yeah, the hospital does have benefits. Most nursing homes do now too. Home care doesn't always have benefits, so you want to watch home care. And it depends. Are benefits important to you? If you've got a spouse that works and you're on their insurance and you know you don't need benefits, then working in a non-benefit position might be a better choice for you because you get more pay. When you don't have benefits, you get more pay. So you have to kind of yeah, you kind of have to assess which is going to be a bigger need for you. But when it comes to where should I work, go onto my website. About halfway down the first page, I have a personality quiz for workplaces. You need to take that. That's actually very important because it's only 19 questions. It's super easy, but it's going to look at things like, what kind of a shift do you like? Do you like short shifts? Do you like long shifts? If you've got children at home, long shifts may not work for you because of daycare. You know, you got transportation issues. Getting to work 3 times might be a whole lot easier than getting to work 5 times a week. You know, so you have to kind of figure out. You also have to figure out, are you a team player? Do you really, really like going to work with a team of people, a close-knit team? You have potlucks on the weekends, whatever, you know, you're very close. Or are you the person that doesn't like people and you just want to go in and get your job done and not have to really get overly involved with things? Because your personality is going to play into that a little bit. You also have to figure out what kind of care you want to provide. Do you want to provide a lot of personal care where you're really getting to know the patient and you're making them feel better and you know, taking care of those personal care tasks that they can't do for themselves? Or are you looking for something more technical where you're doing more nursing type stuff? Because that's going to dictate what place you're going to be. How routine oriented are you? Are you the person that likes to go in and know exactly what you're going to do with each patient every day? Or are you the person like me that thrives on chaos? That's going to impact where you're going to work. So all of these things, like I said, this quiz took me a very long time to build because it's all psychology. And it will help you. It looks at all of these factors and it will help you narrow down the type of nursing that you might be suited for. It's very accurate. So when you're asking, where should I start? That's you know, where I would suggest you start. Benefits are part of that. Part of that quiz talks about benefits, but it also talks about opportunity for advancement. If you want to advance, home care is not the place for you because there's nothing to advance to. But the hospital may not be the best solution either. A rehab might be a better choice. So maybe you don't want to do a whole lot of personal care. Mental health might be a good option. Yeah, so that online, and it'll open up because almost everybody's kind of stuck between 3, right? Hospital, nursing home, home care. There are so many other opportunities out there that you don't even think about, but they're out there. Doctor's offices, walk-in clinics, they hire CNAs. Mental health, hire CNAs. Pediatrics, hire CNAs. I did pediatrics early in my career and I really enjoyed it. The kids are not the problem. I love the children. The families that they come from, oof, man. You just can't pick your family. You know?
The clock was a rat.
Oh man. And I was with one family for 7 years. Very long time. But ooh, for days. But there's lots of opportunity out there for you beyond the traditional hospital, nursing home, home care. And that's what this will help you kind of look into a little bit deeper, right?
Do you think there's like one though, like being brand new and not having any experience that helps you?
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's a very good question because you are brand new, you are slow. You're supposed to be, you're new. So one time in your life that you can get away with being slow, you're new. So we talked about hospitals, right? and how we have change all over the place, admissions and discharges and transfers and patients that are unstable. You are slow and you are trying to get into a place with lots of change. Do you think that's a good combination? Probably not. And that's a lot of times what happens is that people go straight out of CNA into the hospital because they've watched too many Scrubs episodes or Grey's Anatomy. They're looking for Dr. McDreamy, whatever. They think it's more glamorous for some reason. They get into the hospital and they absolutely bomb because they don't have the speed. They don't have the understanding. They don't understand where they fit into the whole ecosystem. And it can be very frustrating. Now, the problem is that instead of understanding that this is a me problem, not a hospital problem, they think it's a healthcare problem. So then they leave healthcare. We've seen that a lot. People that go straight into the hospital because that's what they ultimately they want. And they jump right in with both feet. They may not make it in healthcare because when they leave. They think this isn't for me. I can't do this. And they leave. Don't leave healthcare. Just leave where you're doing healthcare. This is a you problem. It is not a hospital problem. And that's one of the hardest things to try to figure out when you're leaving a bad situation is, was this a me problem? Was this a facility problem? Or was this a work type problem? Okay. And you have to figure this out. If this was a work type problem, then you need to go to retail or bank or, reception work or whatever, right? If you just absolutely hate the work, get out. If this is a facility problem, right? You're not getting along with your coworkers, things are too cliquey, you're having issues with your supervisor, nobody's answering call lights, and you hate it here because nobody's being taken care of. That's a place problem. Find a new place. You don't have to leave healthcare. It's not a work type problem. It's a place problem. Find a new place. If this is a you problem, then you need to either work on your skills or figure out where you need to change to fit in. Don't expect the place to fit you. You've got to fit the place. And sometimes that can be uncomfortable. It really can. It can be uncomfortable.
I had a problem last Friday. Came into work morning about 6:45, and usually the CNA is already there, and then my job is pass water. And that time I didn't see anybody on the floor, and 3 of them. And then me and the other new girl passing water. One resident was naked, all the pillows on the floor, and tried to stand up. And then I told this to the new girl, I said, watch 10, I'm gonna find the CNA. Couldn't find. And then so I went back, so couldn't find CNA, maybe we can help him. And then no, I'm pregnant because she's like 6 months pregnant. And then I talked to the nurse. I said, no, this is our problem, CNA's problem, not the nurse. Or we get in trouble. But she went there anyway, and the nurse like, oh, you're bothering me, I have to pass meds, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, man. So after that, okay, let's just help them, do that. And then I saw the 3 CNA coming from a break early in the morning. Like
all 3?
All of them, yes. So I was kind of upset already because started, like in the wrong side. And then the food already there came in early too for breakfast. So I said, okay, we're gonna serve the breakfast, and the 3, before they came in, I started serving the breakfast. I had to quit giving the water first because the breakfast I don't want to get cold. And they all come in and said, so we passed the breakfast. I ignored what happened. And then after the breakfast, 3 lights come on. Try to answer the 3 call lights. And once and they said, there's a bed need to be made. He pointed to me. I was like, my God, I'm still answering the lights. This is my job. So I ignored her and came outside and said, I'm not making beds. I'm answering the lights right now. And then, no, there's a bed need to be made. So I came to the nurse. I said, what am I just gonna make beds or gonna answer the lights? And I don't know. That's what the nurse told me. If you're not licensed, then do what they ask you. But my job is answer the lights, because just in case there's something emergency or something. So I said, I'm done. So I put my hands like this, I'm done with this place. So I clock out, and then one of the said, no, you're not done. Maybe we move you to the other section, which is where I always work. And then so yeah, you don't want to lose her because she's a good CNA, gonna be a good CNA. That's what one of them said. So come back in. So they moved me there. And then the person who complained, who asked me to do the bed, talked to the supervisor, with their friends. So the following day, I went to work. The supervisor went to work on the floor. She stripped all the beds and she asked me to make all the beds. I was like being punished. I made all the beds. She said, make that. And I just made those beds maybe like 2 days ago. I was like, they're not even dirty. Because I said, why she strip them?
Would have taken me the whole shift, the whole day.
I made about.
You want to play with me?
About 9 beds, and I couldn't answer the lights, the call lights.
So in that situation, and this is where my brain always goes, always, right? So in that situation, who's the person that really, obviously you were affected by that, but who are the people that really suffer in that? The patients. So is that supervisor really doing what they're supposed to be doing, in making sure that everything works for the good of the patient? No. So when you leave a job, it's one of 3 things. It's a person, place, or thing problem. That's it. It always boils down, is it a person, place, or thing problem? Right? So for you, it's unfortunately all 3, because the person problem here is everybody in the scenario. Okay, you know what your job description says that you're supposed to do, but the nurse is not aware of your job description, and the supervisor is not aware of your job description. So this is a person problem, right? You also are working in a place with a click, which is, man, if I was a DON and heard that story, ooh.
Everybody.
Oh, we would be having a meeting, and you would not leave without missing a few layers of skin.
The direct support community situation is like that. Always clicky management.
Yes,
always clicky.
yes, and that is absolutely. No, and I know it's bad out there, and it's not going to be any better as a CNA. Unfortunately, I wish I could tell you, you get certified and it gets better. It doesn't. We've got to fix the problems that exist.
Oh, and also after that, the bin was full of laundry. He said, you gotta go take this out every 30 minutes. I started making beds and answering wives, taking this every 30 minutes. I said, if I don't make the beds, I can go out there and take the bins every 30 minutes. That's what I told one of the seniors. I was like, really, she just punished me for something.
And that's what it sounds like to me. Now, I'm going to hope that she had information that you didn't have, such as maybe somebody on the unit has shingles, and they're trying to make sure that all the sheets have been cleaned so that we don't have a transfer. I'm hoping that there was a altruistic reason for what she did. It sounds to me from what you said, that it's probably a retaliation. That's what it sounds like. But I'm hoping that maybe she had information that you didn't have. Because and I will tell you this, there are times that I will ask somebody to do something and I will not tell them why. I don't need to. I just need you to do what I need you to do, right? If I've got a lot of things going on. So I'm hoping that's one of those situations. It doesn't sound like it, but I'm hoping. Like I'll go next door to the retail store and I'll tell the guys, I need you to put this over there and move that one over there. And I won't tell them why I don't have time. I've got things to do. Just do what I need you to do. Right? And if it's important, I'll tell you why later. But I don't always have the luxury. Now, I'm a why type of person. I function way better when I know the why. Way better. Don't ask me to do something if I don't know why I'm doing it, because now I think it's busy work or stupid work or, whatever. I like the why. But I also, as a boss, understand that I can't always give it, because I would be standing there for 10 minutes to explain why I had you move that shirt over there is because I've got another shipment coming in later today that has a new style that's going to go on that rack, and we're going to have to move it. Now, now it's 10 minutes later. I could have done stuff in that 10 minutes, right? That was a conversation we had last week, by the way. So I get it. Okay. So person, place, and thing. We have a person problem. We definitely have a place problem because nobody there sounds like it sounds like it's not being managed properly. You got all the CNAs going out at one time on break. That should never happen. Ever happen. And if you are a CNA out there, you do not get to go on break with your friends. That's not why you're here. So you've got a management problem there. Man, if I had seen that.
About them taking a break at the same time.
And they know you complain?
I
They know?
complain.
Oh,
They
so
know.
they're against it now, so now she.
Yeah, you're the troublemaker.
Yep. Stay your job. Stay there.
But okay, so here's the thing, right? Here's the real problem. We've already discussed, and this is a conversation I would have with staff. We've already discussed that this ultimately affects the patient. Yes, it affects you, certainly. But ultimately, the people we should all be focused on are the patients. And this situation has affected your ability to answer the call lights for the patients. Mm-hmm. So the patients are the ones that ultimately paid the price for these little games, whatever's being played here. But the problem is that if nothing changes, nothing will ever change. Right? So as frustrating as it is for you, and as much as you want to tear your hair out, and as much as you really, really, really want to quit, I'm not going to tell you don't quit. There are other places that you may be way happier, but I am telling you to keep in mind that nothing changes unless something changes. And often this is what it takes. Change is painful. Change is very painful, but often this is what it takes, is some people to stay in uncomfortable situations and stand their ground and know this is my job description. I am giving water. I am answering call lights, not making beds. Do you see making beds in here? Right. This is my job description. Now, I'm a good direct care provider. I'm going to be a good CNA. And if you want to lose me, that's fine, because there's other places that will take me. Right now, I'm operating within this job description. When I'm a CNA, I will operate within that job description. But if you keep playing these games, I'll find somewhere that will be happy to have me, that will respect me and my position.
There's one patient. This is really hard to long term and short term. I screamed and said, I need help, because the lady peeing in the bucket. I was holding her so she don't fall. Mm-hmm. And nobody helped me. And the dietitian came. I said, I need your help. And she was like, what happened? Because she saw the very scary procedure. I said, I've been asking help, nobody helped me. I was really.
No, I'm not laughing at you. Oh my gosh. When I was a brand new nurse, brand new, I learned about sundowners from a little old lady who was peeing in a potted plant. Yeah. I mean, you'd read about something, but I never. This was a Southern belle. I mean, she was prim and proper, had to have her hair done, put her makeup on. She's in a long-term care setting. During the day, she had dementia, was a little bit confused, but at night, sundowners, man, her whole talk about gremlins, right? I mean, that's what whoever wrote Gremlins had somebody in their life that was a sundowners. I guarantee it. She would flip. I mean, she became this raving lunatic that would pee in the potted plants.
What the hell?
Yeah, I mean, what? What is wrong with you? And that was my introduction to sundowners. I had no idea that, personalities could change so incredibly drastically. So when you're talking about peeing in a bucket, I'm like, yep, I've seen that. Yep, absolutely.
Help me. And so I went there. But I mean, the nurses was listening or saying, oh, she always screaming for that. But I said, okay, she's screaming, I better go. Even there's no whole life, that's what I found.
And that's the problem in a nursing home.
Oh, absolutely.
Because so Johnny may be a screamer and screams all day.
Yeah.
And after a while,
You tune it out.
You tune it out. It's like, oh my God, he's just having an outburst. But then when something really like your situation you walk up in, then nobody else is going to pay attention because that's what he always does. But unfortunately, you're stuck in that situation. But right now, not being trained as a CNA to help him if you know now what to do with falling, but that puts you in a really bad position, like where the CNA should help or something, because that's a bad start.
And the nurse should help.
Exactly.
The nurses should not be sitting at the station when somebody is screaming for help.
How you don't know what your staff is supposed to do?
Well,
Which is
But
not
they
a
should
good
always
excuse.
No,
inform each
no,
other.
no.
Before you leave the shift, you're supposed to inform, give everybody the rundown.
right, shift report. But here's the real problem, guys. And this is the secret I really didn't want to have to tell you. Nurses do not know what you are supposed to be doing. Nurses have no idea what your scope of practice actually is. They don't. If you ask a nurse what a CNA is, every one of them will say the same thing. They're a butt wiper. That is not your role. Your role is to read and follow the care plan and to do routine tasks on stable patients to free them up to do other things. That is your role. But your nurses don't know that. They don't know it. So they're like, yeah, the CNAs are doing something down the hall, something. I don't know what. They're down there. They're down there. They don't know. Just like your supervisor has no idea what your job description is. They don't know. And it is a dirty secret in healthcare. It is. And it's one that I'm desperately trying to change. This is why I give all of my content away for free. This is why I'm on YouTube every Thursday preaching. It's because CNAs, before I came along, did not have a clear understanding of their role. And if the CNAs don't know what their role is, how in the world are the nurses going to? They just don't. They don't get it. So that's what you're fighting against right now. And I see it, right? That frustration that, oh my gosh, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what you're telling me to do. And these two things don't match up. And I know the patients are suffering. This is a bad situation. And I get it. And it's a shame because they're probably going to lose a very good CNA, somebody that cares. And I wouldn't blame you for leaving.
I trying to think about giving like 2 weeks.
If you do that, you need to tell them exactly why.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to our the director. Because I think she will understand.
And you need to tell them there is a disconnect between what you hired me to do and what their expectations of me are.
She talked to me when she saw me transferring one patient. I think I was the first 1 week started there. And she said, you can't do that. You cannot transfer from there because you're not licensed. Something happened, you hurt patients, we get in trouble. So I talked to the CNA, I said, I can help. But if they can stand up on their own, I can do that, watch them from party or whatever. So I've been doing it lately, like changing the pads, doing this and that. Because I'm learning a little bit. And then after that, they trying to push me more to do things. But it's okay because I said, there's no life I can do it. Like if I said, can you walk? I said, yeah, okay, I can help you go to the bathroom. I do that. I've been doing it more stuff. Because I know they get busy and to the other patients.
And it sounds to me like there's a staffing issue there, that they're short staffed and they need you to operate in that CNA space, even though you're not currently a CNA yet.
I mean, I've been going to training, I mean, more. That's why a lot of my coworkers, some in the long term, they let me there. They appreciate me more, and
So that might be an option for you.
because the one in the rehab, it's just this. It's in one building, but it's different.
Right,
care.
different sections, yes.
But long term, they like me there. I mean, because I saw them how they work. They really work so hard. I mean, they non-stop. So I've been helping them because I said I can do this because she's a walker. She can walk. She can, all I have to do is change the pad, I'm doing it like that. I don't have to hold them or
Right.
it up because they can do their own.
Mhm.
That's a really conflicting situation. I feel like the going through me, I know like it's not a healthy work environment, but at the same time, I'd be thinking about like the patients if I can do.
Right,
what
right.
their life is gonna continue to be like,
Yeah,
So it's tough.
it is. It's very tough. I have stayed longer in places I should not have stayed, and I have left places I probably should have stayed. And yes, that it is the, but you have to figure out, is this a person problem? Is this a place problem, or is this a thing problem? What I'm being asked to do. And if it's all three, it's a problem. And it sounds like yours is a person problem, a place problem, and a thing problem. So I would, I'm not telling you to leave. I'm hoping that you stay so that things change, because it seems like they need good, committed staff. I'm hoping that you stay, but I would absolutely understand it if you left.
The top CNA, I mean, she's older CNA. Her husband is the manager of housekeeping. Her daughter is working there.
Yep.
So she's everybody follow her. When she take a break, she carry one fork with her. I was like, so it's like a mess.
Yep.
And they help her doing her patients. I told one said, wait, follow her. You said, your patients need to be changed. I need to do her first. I have to follow, like I need to help her. You can help her, but your patient is waiting. And I have this call lights like 3-4 times asking to be changed. Or they need to wait because I'm still working in this section. So, okay. It's not a good.
Yeah, I want to go back to that screaming patient for just a second, because this, I think, is important for you guys to think about this. I want to rewire your brains a little bit, okay? Because it is so easy. It really is. When you have the same patients that are always screaming, tuning them out becomes almost a survival instinct, right? Because you can only hear that for so long. And it triggers, the first couple times you hear it, it triggers, oh my gosh, problem, I got to go help. You can't have that trigger over and over and over again, because it'll burn you out. It's a dopamine dump. It burns you out. So I understand the self-preservation of just tune them out. It's okay. But I want to give you a different perspective on this, right? These patients are in our facility because they are unsafe to be home. They're not here on vacation. They're not here for any other reason. They cannot be home. That's why they're here. Well, what's the big difference between home and here?
It's supposed to be professionals trained to deal with.
Okay, that's right. That's a big difference between home and here, is that we have the training to deal with this. We are supposed to be professionals. And there's a whole lot more of us than there are of people at home to help them, right? So we have numbers on our side. Plus, family at home that's taking care of this, it's 24 hours a day. It doesn't ever stop, right? So with us, we get shifts. You're dealing with it for 8 hours, but then you get to go home, right? So there's a whole lot of difference between home and here. And remember, they're here because they're not safe to be home. So when we have somebody who's yelling all the time, okay, it's our instinct is to tune them out of self-preservation. But we need to understand that when we do that, we are completely negating the difference between that unsafe home environment and this one. They might, if they're going to be screaming and nobody's going to pay attention, they might as well be. Does that make sense? Now they're here paying $6,000 a month because nursing homes are expensive and they have to pay for it. They are here paying $6,000 a month because they're unsafe to be home. That means we cannot act like they're at home. Does that make sense? So while I understand that mentality of just ignore them because they always scream, that is why they are here. That right there is enough reason for you to get up from behind that desk and go check on them every time they scream.
I don't understand that part. Because even if I know someone's always making noise, there's always some noises that are different than others. So I'm always, okay.
Yeah.
It's a regular one.
Or maybe they need to be in a wheelchair in the hallway so we can keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
Or maybe they need to be in the activity room, or maybe we need to have every 5-minute round. Somebody needs to have eyeballs on that person every 5 minutes to make sure. But there are strategies that we need to be employing other than ignoring. Ignoring is what happens at home. They're unsafe to be at home. They're here. That means that that strategy does not work for us. And that's why you need good facility management. If I were the manager of that facility, that's the very first thing I'm going to tell my staff is that, okay, there's 6 of you working today. That person needs to be checked on every 5 minutes. That means that every 30 minutes you need to be in there. And you need to be in there because you're going to check on them, and 5 minutes later, you're going to check on them. And 5 minutes later, you're going to check on them. And 5 minutes later, you're going to check on them, and you're going to rotate. That way you're not in there every 5 minutes all shift. That's where good management comes in.
It's hard sometimes with the local nursing homes because a lot of them are family owned and they do hire friends and family, a lot of nepotism.
Sure.
And then you run into that. It's this one, and you're gonna have that everywhere. But
You are.
Locally, it is something else.
It's everywhere. It's not just, I wish I could say it was just here. It's not. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yeah. Because, I mean, realistically, Ray, he's working at a nursing home And he's told, hey, we'll give you a $500 bonus if you can bring us another CNA. So who is he? He's not going to go out on the street corner and pull in a stranger, right? He wants that $500. He's going to look for, you know, the closest person. Hey, you, you know.
So do you think that's what's happening? That no one's really going to classes and actually training, but just going and taking the test and passing and just
88% of all Florida CNAs
Wow.
are challengers.
yeah. So it's like they just go in there. Most of them don't even know what they're going through. They just, like you said,
They mimic what I'm doing on the videos. They
so
don't
that's why
understand.
They really don't care because they don't really have no sense of what's going on.
No. They know how to do the skills. They don't know why they do it.
And they figure it's fun, maybe easy, oh, we're just going. in,
That was
just
me.
doing this, and
That was me. That's why I'm here, because I was like, direct support is like being a CNA, so I might as well get the actual. And when I got here, I'm like, okay, there's some stuff that a direct support professional does not do.
Right.
So I'm glad that
I'm glad you found value in it.
yeah, now I'm not gonna be just a direct support CNA, like, you know, there's a background to that
Right.
to that title. It's not just like I applied and I got hired.
yeah,
Right.
and allow it to be the
You
standard.
approved and the state did too, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what matters.
My work, they give us a free online class. But I said, no, I'm gonna go to.
Yes.
I paid, I said, I don't mind paying for it. But I said my 1 week salary can pay for it. And then, oh, it's free, it's free. I don't care, it's free.
Right.
So that's why I took this class.
There's something too, and this is kind of funny too, because I've done this long. We actually gave our class away for free while I was building it. Those that pay attention.
Mhm. Time is money.
If you paid to sit in this seat, you're going to pay attention while you're here. Those that pay attention.
Mhm.
So when you make it free, it devalues it. It does, like, you know, and that initial response. Yeah, I mean, free is nice, right? Free is for me, right? But then you start to think, well, I mean, really, how good quality could it be if it's
Right.
free, right? Chances are what they're offering you is my online class that you already have access to, because we are the online class out there. And a lot of nursing homes have contracted with me to get seats to give to direct support professionals to make them into CNA. So chances are the free online class that you were offered is probably me. But a lot of, and you have access to that, so you'll be able to go through it if you want to. But a lot of people, just like you, are like, no, you know, I'm not real sure about the whole free thing, or, you know, I wouldn't really want to go to a class, an actual class where I can sit and have conversations. And that's why I still teach this.
It's more structured. I find that
It
more
is.
out of it.
Better to learn from than the writer, the head honcho.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm very fortunate. I get to do what I love to do, you know, and somebody told me a long time ago, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I would say that that's probably true. I mean, other than the fact that I struggle to get here at 9 a.m., that's early for me. I do love what I do. And I love having these conversations, and I love being able to influence the next generation of healthcare. And I think that, you know, we are getting better. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I do think that I can see a difference in the way healthcare is being performed. I think we're making a difference. But in order for us to truly make a difference, you guys have to listen to what I say, but then you have to go out there and actually do it. And that's why I spend a lot of time on these types of, it's not just knowing how to change a bed. It's about understanding the environment that you're going to be working in, and the patients, and how to relate to your coworkers and your supervisors and the patients. So I think these conversations are important. And I think that they'll help you in the long run. So we've got no skills done yet, and it's almost break time. But it's Monday, so that's okay. Let's go ahead and take our break. And when you get back, I'm going to show you the 3 skills. And these are not long skills. Most of them, you already know everything that you need to know. We're going to refresh a few things, but there's not a whole lot to learn here. And then you'll have some practice time. Okay. Go ahead and take 15 minutes. Come back at 20 till.
Maybe Wednesday. Yeah. Tomorrow, after day, my day. Yeah, give me your list. I want to do that. So we can stay, in touch.
Yeah.
You're not fascinated.
Just asking,
What you want.
like that work, think about asking if you can make a
Mhm.
instead of being the entire. Maybe just a different change of style.
Yeah.
Especially you like it there and you like those people.
Mhm.
It's 312-777-9856. Oh, just yeah, my phone's on.
Just get hard on me because I think the click and like when I was shadowing somebody last Friday, Friday, is she boxing? She said like that to one of you. No, why she's telling me, why she's telling me to do this because she's doing it wrong, like shaving this old man without wetting and putting shade. I was like, and the old man's like this, but he cannot talk.
Oh.
And I said, hey, I learned this. I said, we had to put cream, this and that, and we had to clean. You cannot just do this. I was like, I said, I'm taking a test and I don't want to pick up something that's not right. I told her. I said, I'm paying for my school and I'm going to do it right. I don't want to just, do it sloppy. I don't know if I'm just being straightforward to them, if I don't like me.
No, because you're actually telling them, you're learning the correct way to do things, and they're doing it the lazy way and don't want to do it. And
Yeah, just like we use 2 pads at work, right? And she only using 1 pad. I told her, why are you not using 2 pads? We're supposed to use this, the waterproof thing and salt protector. So, oh no, that's enough. I said, no, you use 2 pads because you're helping the patients and also your coworker because so they don't have to change the whole bed, especially nighttime now. I mean, the second shift is going to be nighttime. They want to change in beds at night. So that I told her, let's put 2 pads. Oh no, say I don't have time for that. Then you have to make time because they're gonna be mad at you if the bed is wet at night. So I grab all, the second pads, put there. She's like, oh, she's giving me this little, and she's supposed to be a nurse. That's what she said. I said, what school did you go? I told her.
exactly.
She cannot tell me what school. I think she just saying she went for nurse class, but it's not. Because if she has, she's not doing it right. But I'm just CNA, taking a CNA class, but I'm taking a lot of stuff but you know,
See, that would scare me, like, um, just thinking about it, because, like, obviously, if you know somebody's doing something and they're gonna fall, you're gonna do anything you can to stop them from falling. Anybody is going to do that,
yeah,
you know, but, like, we learned how to do it
mhm,
properly, like, bring them close, ease them down,
mhm,
instead of just, oh my God, you're falling, and just doing that, and both fall. Then it's like, what in the world is gonna happen? Like, what could happen to me? Like, if I'm the one that's catching this person, I don't wanna get in trouble.
yeah,
This is beyond what my scope is supposed to do. I'm not trained to do this,
mhm,
you know, and it's like, but that would be such secondary to, oh my God, this person fell because everybody else was not around, and I'm trying to help them do the best that I can in a situation that I can only do what I can do. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh.
that's my frustration at work. It's so bad.
And it's hard.
And they smoke like every 15 minutes. I think
the smoke.
every minute. I was like, oh my God,
Oh,
we
yeah.
only have 3 breaks total. One is 15 minutes, one is 30 minutes, and another 15
Oh,
minutes. But they're taking
Yeah,
so
they
many
breaks all the
breaks.
time. Yeah. And one does, or one will be walking down the hall, because I've seen it. One will be walking down the hall to take the laundry, the soiled basket, down to the house,
That's
to
me.
the laundry. And then
Answering
they pass
lights.
by the activities room, and they know who the other CNA that's doing she's assisting in there with whatever activities going on. Well, she stops, and maybe they're doing something fun, or they're about to have like their little cookie and cake social. So she's just like leaning up on the wall, just talking, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
And,
a lot of them.
oh, okay, well then that one goes back and does what she has to do, and then she stops and sees somebody out by the break room, because that's all, that way goes this way, you have to go this way to the laundry, so then they stop, so, and it takes forever for them to get back. And then at that time, oh, bedtime now, she comes back with an empty box, an empty, linen box container to put back. Oh, well, then it's time for cookies and cake, cookies and coffee time. Oh, well, you know what? Her friends in the activities room doing that. Oh, there's extra. Come on in. Have a couple of cookies, have a cup of coffee, sit and chat, because this long-term care patient is telling a story that you're interested in, and you really like that patient. It's like, and as a support care person, not licensed or certified, you need help with somebody, call lights are going off. You can't find anybody to help you.
Yeah.
It is. I've ran into that, and it's like, you just want to just go.
Pull your hair out. Can I?
Well, it is.
I was like, I'm a slave. I feel like I'm a slave there. It's like the way they treat me. I mean, I was walking and I said, there's a bed needs to be made. I was like, do you see I'm going to some, 3 lights I'm supposed to go, just cold light.
Yeah, it's hard. It is. It's hard.
Margaret, are you there? I have a question there. It said here you are assigned to perform a catheter care on female patients.
Mhm.
You decide to raise the bed to be a comfortable working height to perform the skill.
Mhm.
Is this allowed? And then yes, as long as you get the patient's permission. B, yes, as long as you lower the bed after the skill. C, no, you must have the nurse permission. D, no, the bed must always be in the low position.
Yes, you can do it because the care plan is stating that you can,
Lower the bed,
you
right?
can go, you're performing the catheter care.
So
So yes, you're doing that. Make it as comfortable for you. The only thing is you have to make sure it's lower when you're finished because it's a safety
so B.
thing. Which question is that?
Unit 6.
The unit 6 test? That's on what, page 10, that's 118, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just,
Where you get the answers on that one?
at the back. When we do the, like, all the ones for the chapter test.
Yeah.
If you look at the couple of pages before that, all of the little quizzes and everything, all of
Is
the
it-
answers, yeah, for all of those little things that we do.
Oh, right
activities,
here.
they're all right
I
there.
see now.
Let me make sure I get that.
Okay. 118.
I got a very nice question about my work style over the weekend
Really?
by my gentleman's granddaughter.
Wow.
And I really stated how much I wanted her for this class. She had done some volunteering years back, just in the activities area of different. She used to live in Largo, and come in and play the keyboard and
Oh,
in
nice.
there, which is wonderful. But so she's moved, so she's just down the road from my grandfather now, so she can visit him daily. But over the weekend, she spent quite a bit of time over there. When she's bored, she's lonely, so it's good for all of us. You know, keeps him entertained as well.
Mhm.
But she was very kind. She had made lunch. She brought it for us, and I forget what it was that she made. I think she just made a special mashed potatoes that she made. And I'd asked her grandfather if he wanted some. And she said, well, just give him some. I said, no, I'm going to ask him if he'd like that. And then I had some meatloaf. I said, well, would you like some meatloaf and gravy to go with that? And how about some vegetables? He said, no, I don't want this. I said, well, how about this type of vegetable? I just don't feel like vegetables. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I said, well, would you like some juice? Would you like some tea? What would you like? She's like, wow. She said, I remember seeing people in the nursing home, they just get it. They weren't asked choices. And you're asking him what he would like. And even, I said, well, Sheriff is gonna, Sheriff. I said, Sheriff wants to stay and play the keyboard. What do you think? It's like 2 o'clock. He's 98, he'll be 99 this year, and he's declining. He's declining. With a lot of the super energy conservation at this point. And he'd nap most of the morning. I said, would you like her to stay? And would you like her to play some music for you? She can stay for a while. He said, yeah. I said, well, think of some nice songs that you know what she can play. If you remember anything, do you want, I know he's a retired missionary.
Wow.
He said his father was too in India.
Oh.
So he does a lot of the the older style music.
Yeah, the old hymns. Yeah.
He doesn't remember them, just saying how about he recognizes them. So I said, well, what do you think? Would you like to try some, how to replace it this right now?
Mhm.
Even this, she's like, wow, you're asking him so much what he would like. I said, you know why? Because one, we're learning that he has choices, but I am here taking care of him. This is his house. So
Right.
what we're doing is for him. It's not what I would like, it's what he would like.
Right.
And she's like, wow. She said, I've never ever seen or heard anybody related to that. I said, this is what Miss Polly used to do. I said, I've seen in class. It's not about what I want, or if anyone ever wants when they come to visit. I didn't quite hear it. I said, "So what I
Right.
want him to say,
Patient-centered
ultimately,
care.
what he wants." And she just could not believe that.
Wow.
So that goes a long way back
That-
to you.
Well, that does. And that makes me feel very good because you just influenced a whole nother person. And she'll think about that and she'll take that into her interactions with other people. So that's awesome.
Just like when the daughter came over, sometimes she'll have to help because if he needs a two-person assist for something, sometimes when the dementia kicks in, he may need a little bit of extra redirecting that I can't get through.
Mhm.
She just lives next door, so she'll come over with no problem. And I'll explain to him, like, she's heard me at different times when he's been difficult, he needs to get changed because he's soiled, he just refuses to. So she'll help get him that way, and then I'll get him in the bathroom and clean him up. And I explain everything step by step as to what I'm doing, and I did that before the class. And she's like, wow. She goes, why do you do that? He knows the routine. I said, because I don't want to startle him. I want him to know what he's doing, what I'm going to be doing. And again, it's like, and I told her, it's being reinforced to do that in class.
Yeah.
It's common, but like just startling somebody, like waking up, it's like, hey, like you said, just waking up, hey, then you got somebody to clothes off, trying to do this and that. Stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that would be very disconcerting.
Oh, it would be, and I'd never do that to anybody, but
Yeah,
just the.
but it
fact that-
happens. It happens all the
but
time.
just the fact that they're seeing.
A
that people are just
difference.
seeing a difference.
Yeah.
So that I think that for at least me, the way you teach and present the class in that patient-centered setting, patient-centered care, I think is going to be a very, very positive thing. And I'm definitely gonna be, I don't want just that stigma of, and you said it, like the nurses said, seeing a butt like her. No, it's which everybody, that's what everybody thinks. You just wash old people's butts.
Hi.
You know, it's like, no, there's so much more to that. And that's what I want to talk with. out in the
You're not on
community.
there anymore.
No.
Like, wait a minute.
I was just running away, but I didn't want to miss any more into the bed.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, yeah.
So Mrs. Garrett, how to stop the screamer, like, help me.
Honestly, the best thing to do is to make them feel like they're in a safe, secure environment. So they're not so the analogy here, you know how when you have a brand new baby, I mean, brand new, just born, right? Everything startles up. I mean, this whole world is like new, right? So in order to keep a brand new baby from screaming all the time, you swaddle them. You wrap them up tightly in a blanket, you swaddle them. And that's to try to minimize all the new, that they feel safe and secure. Well, patients that are screaming, there is something that they do not feel secure about.
I give her crackers and she's happy.
There you go. She may be hungry. She may just need that, that that tactile stimulation. Yeah. But you also have to think about, babies get bored. A baby will scream when it's bored. Babies get bored too. We don't think in those terms, but they need entertainment too. They need, mental stimulation. Well, can you imagine for a second, I want you to kind of put yourself in a patient's place for a second. So here you are in a nursing home and you're confused and none of your family is around. And even if they were, you wouldn't recognize them. So there isn't a soul that you know. So you're in an unfamiliar place surrounded by unfamiliar people. You don't have to do anything because everything's done for you. Right? All the cooking, all the cleaning, everything's done for you. There's nothing to do. Nothing. And you have days of this, weeks, months, years. It literally can make you crazy because you have no meaningful activity. Everybody treats you like you're an inconvenience. The psychology behind this, I would probably start screaming too, because I don't want to be here. You guys clearly don't want me here. I don't want to be here. So why am I here? Why? Send me home. I want to go home. So when you have staff that go out of their way to make the patient feel needed, feel wanted, that interact with them as humans, not as lumps of flesh we have to clean, you end up with patients that are less screaming because they don't have that sense of, I don't belong here. A lot of dementia patients will yell and scream because they are trying to get back to a familiar, they're trying to retain a sense of security. They want to get back to a familiar place with familiar people. They can't. We know they can't. But if we can make this place more comfortable, more secure, if we can put pictures up on the wall that they may recognize, if we can call them by name. And that's one of the things that I always did working in long-term care, is if my patient's name was Mr. Hopkins, every encounter I called him by his name. Hi, Mr. Hopkins, it's Patty, your nurse. I'm here to whatever. Hi, Mr. Hopkins, can I sit and chat with you for a minute? Hi, Mr. Hopkins, they're playing music. Let's go down to the activity room and listen to the music. Mr. Hopkins, here's your lunch. When you use their name, and some people would prefer first names, that's fine. But I think there's something to using formality. We are not family. If I call him Harold, his family called him that. I am not family. So I don't recognize you. And you're calling me by my name. That means that there should be a familiarity there that I'm not getting, that I don't know who you are. And that can increase my anxiety because now I think I should know you and I don't. So I tend to skew toward formal when I'm working with older adults, especially those that have memory impairments. Because if I call them by their first name, that there's an expectation that they should know me. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I always skew toward formal unless I have somebody that actually says, hey, call me Millie. Then I'll say, okay, no problem. And then, but still every encounter, I'm still calling her by her name. That helps kind of bridge that security gap. When you do these things, when you make the patient feel more secure, more wanted, more needed, and more entertained, it's a big part of it. Your screamers tend to scream a little less. They just do. because they're screaming just like a newborn. A newborn is screaming because everything is startling. Everything is new, everything is startling. They have no sense of security at all. And that's why we swaddle them. But with older adults, we can do the same thing verbally. We can verbally swaddle them. Don't like really, that's a restraint. Don't like really swaddle them. We just make that clear. But yeah, there's a lot of psychology here, guys, in dealing with strangers. There's a lot of psychology in dealing with strangers, especially older adults. And if we can take just a minute to put ourselves in their position. So there's a story that I used to tell, and I'm going to tell you guys. I know we're a little bit late on skills, but I want to tell this to you because I think that it'll help you. So we'll talk about Martha and Frank. And Martha they lived up north, New Jersey area where they had mass transit and all that. Raised their kids there, finally got to retirement age. She never drove because she worked 3 blocks from home and there was a bus, she never had to learn how to drive. Frank always did the driving. They retired to Florida. And of course, there's no mass transit here. So Frank does all the driving, and they lived here for 15 years and they developed friends and they lived a very, very good life. And then unfortunately he died. So now she's alone. She's a widow and she doesn't drive. That's a problem in Florida. So she contracts with a driving school and she learns how to drive at the young age of 78. And it's not so bad because she lives over here in Temper Pines and she can take the back road behind Big Lots over to Winn-Dixie. And they have a pharmacy, so she can get all of her groceries, her prescriptions, everything. So she's just driving this little back road. It's not that big of a deal. But once every 2 months, she has to go to her doctor's office. And that's way up on Deltona. Now, we don't think it's that far, but when you're not used to driving, 19 is a scary place, especially when your reflexes aren't so good. But on this particular day, she goes to the doctor's office and he gives her some pretty scary news. He thinks she may be developing Parkinson's. And she is like totally freaked out. She gets in her car and she goes to leave, but she's like really nervous. She lives alone. I mean, who's going to take care of her? Right? She's got a lot of stuff going on in her head. And instead of putting it in reverse, she put it in drive. And she ran into the building. So the insurance company says, sorry, but we aren't covering you anymore. So she calls up her daughter in New Jersey and she is just hysterical. She says, I'm down here. I don't have any family. I can't drive anymore because the insurance company canceled me. My car needs repairs. I need help. You need to move here. And her daughter laughs. Are you kidding me? I've got kids in school. I have my own career. I can't move down there. Mom, you have to move back home. Come back here and I'll take care of you. Move in with me. I'll take care of you. She says, I can't handle the cold anymore. I can't go back there. So she's in a pickle. So her daughter, Jennifer, says, Mom, I'll be down this weekend. We'll sort all this out. Let me see what I can figure out. I'll fly in on Thursday. So Thursday comes and Jennifer shows up, picks up her mom, takes her out to lunch. And she says, listen, Mom, I've talked to my brother and sister and we're all in agreement. You can't live at home anymore. You have to go somewhere. And since you can't come up here, we've all got lives. We can't move down here. So we have found you a very nice home. We're going to get you settled in on Saturday, but this home costs $3,000 a month. So we have to sell your house to pay for it. I have a lawyer or a real estate agent coming this afternoon to appraise your house. And I have a lawyer coming. You got to give me POA over everything so I can handle all of this for you. Don't worry about your dog, Sadie. I know she's 14 and you've had her all of her life, but she can't go with you. We're going to have to take her to the pound, but I'm sure she's a perfectly lovely dog. I'm sure somebody will certainly adopt a 14-year-old senior dog. Now, the room that we're getting you, we can't afford a private room. I mean, those are like really expensive. So you're going to have a semi-private room. So you're going to be sharing with another person, and you can only take 2 suitcases full of stuff with you. That's all you're allowed to take. So in the next 2 days, we're going to have a big yard sale and get rid of as much as we can, but you've got to go through everything and figure out what you're going to take with you. Remember, you can only take 2 suitcases full of stuff.
This happens, this is true in a lot of cases, I could say.
This is true in 99% of the cases. So now here she is on Saturday, checking into your facility. And she doesn't want to talk and she doesn't want to eat. And when you walk in the room, she throws a telephone at you because she is just angry. This is not what she wanted for her life. This is not how she expected this all to play out. In one weekend, she has lost her health, her home, her independence, her possessions, her car, her dog, and her dignity. And you walk in and say, why are you so glum? Why do you think she's so glum? Her entire life has just been beyond changed. Yeah, it has exploded. And what she's left with are fragments. And yeah, her family might come visit once a year when they can arrange time off of work. But she is devastated. Absolutely devastated. People don't generally decide, you know, I'm getting a little older, I think I'm going to check myself into an old folks home. They're there because they can no longer function independently. This isn't their want, this is their need. And they're frustrated with it. So why are they screaming? I get it. I absolutely get it. They may be mourning that dog that was laying on their lap every morning while they drank coffee. I get it. So whatever we can do to offer a little bit of security in their life, a little bit of humanity, calling them by their name, so they remember that they are still a person, knowing how they like their coffee, because somebody still cares.
I work with patients before that have been in that same situation. They went from short-term to long-term for some reason, and then it's assisted living after that. And they just sat there and they just cried. All I could do was sit there and hold their hand for exactly that. They're usually a widow or a widower, and the family lives out of the area, and the only thing in their life that they love is their pet. And they're just devastated because
They have to give it up to go. Yeah.
that is the hardest thing that I have had to see happen. It's just, they would sooner just
Yeah.
than give up that pet, because that's, maybe they got it when their spouse was with them, and that's the only true thing that they love and there, and that connection in the woods, and it's just devastating.
Oh, it is. It
It's
is.
horrible.
But sometimes we get so wrapped up in our list of things to do, tasks to complete, personalities we have to navigate, that sometimes we forget that in the middle of all of this is somebody's life that has just become completely unraveled. And we get so focused on ourselves that we forget that we're the only human that they actually get to interact with. And if we are so wrapped up in ourselves, we're not giving to them. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? Think about that the next time your resident is not eating, or maybe appears very frustrated, or says, no, I told you I don't want that, go away. It may be that they're hurting, not that they're just mean. So I had this old man, I'll never forget him. I worked in a facility that was like yours, that had a long-term care and a rehab, right? And I was working on the rehab but on the long-term care side, there was this one guy that he was very gruff. Nobody liked working with this guy. He was mean. He just was not nice. And when you're working in a facility, it kind of gets around, who your problem patients are, right? So even though I was working on rehab, I was hearing about this guy. Well, then I had to cover rehab, or I had to cover long-term care from rehab one day. And I go in, sure enough, he's just like mean. He's just mean. But as I'm in there giving him his pills, he's got a deck of cards on the table, and they were like really worn. I mean, they were real. I guess this guy had shuffled all day long because he had nothing else to do, right? They were really worn out. And so as I'm standing there, I said, so you play cards? And he kind of barked at me, yes. And I said, oh, what do you play? And, I'm just making like idle chatter, trying to get to know him a little bit as a human, not as a patient. And he says, the only game there is poker. I said, oh, 5 or 7. He looks at me. Wait a minute, what does this woman know about poker? And he says, 5. I said, draw or stud. Now I've really got his attention. So now he's looking at me like out of the corner of his eye, and he says, stud. Now, for those of you that don't know, 5-card stud is you get 5 cards and that's it. So it's the best 5. So it's truly luck, right? 5-card draw is that you get to trade in some of your cards for a second chance. So a lot of times poker players, they will see 5-card draw as weakness because you get second chance, right? So true poker is 5-card stud. So I kind of knew where this guy was. I knew, now I know, now his personality makes sense to me. Okay. So later on that day, when I walked in the room, he had the cards dealt. I'm like, oh, no. I was not born yesterday. You shuffle those cards and I'll play a hand with you. So he did. He shuffled. He kind of snorted a little bit. Shuffle, because he's trying to see, am I a sucker? Shuffle the cards, dealt him out, and he won, and that's fine. And I said, I like draw better because and I really do like 5-card draw better because it's better betting. You can actually get more money from your opponents because you draw them in, right? And I said, 5 cards straight up is okay, but if you're really a bet man, you'd be playing draw. And kind of left it at that and let him think about that a little bit. So the next time I was over there, and it'd been like days. So this guy must have dealt this hand of cards multiple times, just waiting for me. But when I came in, he had a pile of M&Ms and cards. He was waiting. He was absolutely waiting. So I played with him, and every day, even when I went back over to my rehab side, I still went down and played a hand of card with him every day. This guy was no longer hard for the staff to deal with. He actually became not nice. I will never, ever accuse the man of being nice. Okay. But he became less hostile because now somebody is looking at him as a person. During our time together, I got to find out that he was actually a world famous poker player.
Oh, wow.
And this is what how he made his living, which is why he had no family, why he had no friends, right? It's a hard life, right? And he had, he had been in prison for many years for some different things. And so he really didn't have anybody that he connected with. Can you imagine being at the end of your life and having these stories and nobody to tell them to? I mean, how tragic is that? So I learned a lot from him. I also learned a lot about poker from him, which is interesting, very interesting. And he would tell me after, we played for quite some time, he's like, you have a tell. He says, you actually have two. And well, what are my tells? He's, I'm not telling. I'm not telling. But you do, you have two tells. So then I started paying attention to myself to try to figure out what my tells were. And that was his big thing, is he would not tell me what my tells were. He literally took them to the grave with him. Literally took them to the grave. But I remember that name. That story, guys, is 28 years old. Still remember that name. Nobody else on this planet does. But I do. And he'll stay with me for the rest of my life. This is why I am in nursing. Does that make sense? So yeah, sometimes the gruffest people, the hardest to get along with people, just need a little humanity. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you'll never win them over. That's a possibility too. I can't tell you that there's Cinderella stories everywhere, but I can tell you that it doesn't hurt to try. And sometimes you can get surprised. It took 3 minutes out of my day to play a hand of poker with them. That's it. All right, so let's learn how to make an occupied bed. This is on page 100. So this care plan for this patient tells us to change the top sheet, bottom sheet, and pillowcase while the resident remains in bed. Resident can roll and move as directed. Yay! We don't have to scoot them toward us. We don't have to do anything crazy. They can do. You can ask them to scoot towards you and then roll, but you don't have to physically do it, right? It just says they can't get out of bed for whatever reason. They just can't get out of bed, so we have to change the sheets around. Guys, whenever possible, change an empty bed. If the patient can't get up, get them up. If they are out of bed for any reason, in the shower room, getting a shower, having a procedure done, in the whatever the case may be, if they're out of bed, if you have an empty bed, you should always look at it and think, does that need changing? I can change an empty bed in about 2 minutes. A complete bed, an occupied bed, is going to take me probably closer to 5. That's a huge time difference. Okay. Now at the bottom of this page, you'll see that it can take somebody with your level of experience up to 14. I'm a little bit faster. I've been doing this a little longer. But you can change an occupied bed in about 5 to 6 minutes. Okay. Unoccupied, much faster, much faster. It also tells us that a bedspread, blanket, draw sheet, or under pad is not required for this skill. So all we're doing, guys, is bottom sheet, top sheet, and pillowcase. That's it. Super easy. In a clinical setting, they won't always be like this. You may have a bedspread to put on. You may have a chucks to put under the patient. And you may have to put a draw sheet on the bed as well. Now, a draw sheet, if you want to know what that is on page 99 at the bottom of the page. And a draw sheet is a flat sheet folded in half lengthwise, so long ways, put on the bed under the heaviest part of the patient. So it would act as a sling if you want to move the patient, move them up in bed, move them towards you. The folded edge is always under the shoulders. The folded edge is always under the shoulders. Okay. This is the heaviest part. And we don't want, remember, anything that we are on is going to create pressure. So you don't want the two pieces putting more pressure. The folded edge will put less pressure under the shoulders. Okay. Now, if you're going to put a draw sheet on or chucks on the bed or anything like that, you can see that on the bottom of page 101. It's going to show you that we just put those on at the same time we do the bottom sheet. So we're going to do it kind of all in one. You put the bottom sheet on, stretch it over the patient, put the draw sheet, put the chucks, and then roll all of that towards you to put it in the patient. So you do it kind of all at once. We're going to remember, we've heard this saying before, guys. Clean rolls toward me, dirty rolls away. You guys remember hearing that? We're going to use that for this skill. In fact, that was built for this skill. So dirty sheet is going to roll toward the patient and tuck under that. Clean sheet is going to roll toward me and tuck under the dirty. That way, if you look at it this way, okay, so this is the patient here. Let me do it this side. This is the patient, right? So the dirty sheet is going to roll toward the patient. So it's the underside of the sheet that's facing up. The part that was on the bed, right? Got it? Now the clean sheet is going to roll toward me. So it's the underside of the sheet that's facing up. We put that under. So the only thing that's touching on the sheets is the part that touched the mattress, not the patient. Good. But don't get too wrapped up in that because there's still a patient in the bed. The source of the contamination is still there. This is not a sterile procedure by any means. The minute you put that clean sheet on the bed, it's already soiled because the patient is laying on it. So don't get too worried about, oh, it touched the pillowcase. Oh, it touched the patient. Yeah, the patient's in bed. Okay. This is necessity. We're trying to make it cleaner. You'll never get it totally clean. Patient's in bed. If you have to clean the patient and change the sheets, which is common, usually if the patient's bedbound, we're going to do it all. If you're going to give a bed bath and change the sheets, the bed bath should come first. That way you have a clean patient on clean sheets. Good. Questions? Your patient is going to be uncovered for this skill. So what do we need? Blanket, privacy blanket. Sure, absolutely. You need sheets for this, so don't hold them up next to your uniform. You're going to put them on the table, but what needs to be on the table? Barrier. So all of our rules are still going to apply, guys. This doesn't change a thing. So we're still going to do an opening. We're still going to use a barrier. We're still going to decide if we need gloves. So let's time out there for a second. For the test, your patient is fully clothed. If you look at the bottom of the page, you'll see it's a live patient. They are fully clothed, holding on to all of their own body fluids like a champ. There's nothing on the sheets. So for the test, do you need gloves? In a clinical setting, if your patient is stuck in bed, everything that they have is stuck in bed with them. So chances are you got stuff on those sheets, wear gloves. Before the test, take the gift they give you because this is way easier to do without gloves. They're just making it easier. Okay, make sense? Remember, it's never based on the skill. It's always based on the patient when you're deciding on gloves. All right. But let's talk a little bit about linens. So in a clinical setting, We do not keep dirty linens in the room. There's no hamper, basket, anything in the room. We don't keep dirty stuff in patient rooms. So that means that it's got to go somewhere. It can't stay in the room. In a hallway, if you go back a couple pages, go back to page 92. The second column on page 93 will show you a hamper. This is what a normal hamper looks like in a clinical setting. It's not like what you would have at home. A bag goes in this wire frame. The bags in most clinical settings are usually light blue, like a really light blue. And you'll see them in the hallway, usually. They're just kind of spaced out in the hallway. Well, that means when you take the sheets off of the bed and there's no hamper in the room, you got to take them to you're not going to be walking back and forth with these sheets. I mean, that's just kind of ridiculous. You can't take them off the bed and throw them on the floor like you do at home. Dirty sheets don't go on the floor in a clinical setting. Shouldn't go on the floor at home either. But so what do we do with them? If we're not going to take them out in the hallway constantly, and we're not going to throw them on the floor, we're going to put them somewhere. Well, in most settings, you're going to go into your dirty utility room. Dirty utility is where we keep all dirty things. And in there is going to be a roll of those blue bags. You're going to go grab a bag, take it to the room, open it up, and you're going to put it on the floor. So all dirty linens will go in the bag. When you're done changing the sheets, you close up the bag and you put that in the hamper. Okay, good. Make sense? Okay. When you're taking linens off of a bed, though, you have to look for any foreign objects, hearing aids, earrings, dentures, yes, remote controls, cell phones, anything. So when you're getting these, remember, clean rolls toward me, dirty rolls away. So you're rolling this dirty linen toward the patient, tucking it up under them. You need to make sure that there's nothing in there, because those bags, those light blue bags, are the original Tide Pods. I mean, they've been around long before Tide Pods were. They are water soluble, just like those Tide Pods. You throw them in, they dissolve, right? These bags dissolve. So when you put linens in the bag and it goes to laundry, that whole bag goes into the washer. The whole thing. So any hearing aids, any dentures, anything is going to go through the washer and the dryer, and whatever it is won't be any good after that. Okay. So make sure you're looking for foreign objects. In most settings, they don't let laundry take those items out and shake them out from healthcare, because we had a lot of needle sticks happen with people in laundry. So they had to come up with a different way. So they're relying on you to check. Good. Any questions on that? Remember that linens do not go on the floor. It's a really big principle, really big principle. But what if you can't find a bag? What if they're missing? What if they're not around? What if your facility doesn't even use them? Well, you can put a chucks on the floor and put the linens on the chucks. That will work as well. But don't put them directly on the floor. For the test, though, you're going to have a basket, and it's going to be at the end of the bed. So you just take the linens off, put them in the basket. You don't have to worry about any of that. Good? Questions? Super easy, guys. This is an easy skill. It's physical. It is really physical. It's a great party trick. Presto changeo. The sheets are clean. Yep. Great party trick. All right, I will show you. Here.
That's all you're putting that way.
Pulling out the chair.
Need a designated volunteer.
Already had the chair moved out this time.
All right, for the test, the evaluator will have a basket at the end of the bed to make it a little bit easier. Thank you. All right. I wouldn't have my eyes butter. Okay, for this skill, I am going to stimulate hand washing at the same time, which is why I'm using hand sanitizer now. Okay, and if you watch the video on this, it has good close-ups of changing the sheets. So you'll be able to see it in close-up. Hi, Ms. Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you? Great. I need to change your sheets. Is that okay? I'm going to close your curtain. Let me get my supply, wash my hands, get my supplies. I'll be right back. I have clean hands. So the first thing I'm going to start with is a barrier. We're going to put that on the table first. And for this skill, the supplies I need is a bottom sheet, a top sheet, a pillowcase, and a privacy blanket. Remember, I don't need gloves for this patient this time. But in most cases, I probably would wear gloves, just because I don't know what's under her. All right, Ms. Jones, I'm going to spread this blanket out over you. And this is going to keep you warm and protect your privacy while I do this, okay? Can you hold that for me? Thank you. I'm going to take the sheet right off the bed. Remember, anything that you remove from the bed, you want to roll up so the trailing edges don't contaminate any other surfaces. We're going to put that right in there. Can you scoot your whole body toward me, please? And then roll so you're facing a little bit more toward the center, if you will. Beautiful. So now I'm going to remove these two corners. Dirty rolls away, so I'm going to roll it away from me. I'm going to roll it pretty tight and tuck it up underneath the patient, all along the length of her body. But I don't want her laying on the bare mattress. I don't want to take this sheet completely off because it's still under her. It's just tucked under her. Now I'm going to take the new sheet, spread it out. Remember, you don't want to snap it. You just want to unfold it, keeping it on the bed. And we'll attach the two corners. Queen rolls toward me. Take the sheet, hold it up. Now, if I wanted to put a draw sheet on there or a chucks, I would just stretch it over her, put those items here, and then roll the whole thing toward me. And again, you want to roll it as tight as you can because we want to minimize the wrinkles under the patient. So I'm going to lift up. Just relax. Now lift up that dirty sheet and tuck this one underneath. And you can see that I'm minimizing the wrinkles. There's very few wrinkles under her. Okay. So the sheet is on, minimize wrinkles. Come on back onto your back and then scoot to the middle, big speed bump. There you go. Come on over this way, and you're gonna roll that. Actually, come back onto your back. Right, come on. Reposition that. Okay, now you go. And then I'm just gonna remove that sheet from under the patient, roll it up. Not so close to the edge. Gonna put that in the basket. And then I'm gonna unroll the sheet as I work my way up. Come on back onto your back. There you go, and scoot to the middle. Yep. Now I'm gonna put the top sheet on. And again, I'm not trying to snap it, I just want to unfold it. And we need to make hospital corners. That's going to keep the corners of the sheet contained so they don't fall onto the floor. So in order to make good hospital corners, the secret is to get the end of the sheet underneath the mattress flat, not just down. We don't just shove it down. So I'm going to lift the mattress up and tuck the end of the sheet under the mattress so it's flat. See how it's flat? You guys see how it's flat under the mattress? I'll come around and show you this. Then you're going to come down about 1 foot from the end of the bed to top flap only. Grab the top flap only and go straight up. And it makes a triangle. Everything else gets tucked in. That's a hospital. So over here, we're going to lift the mattress, tuck it flat under the mattress. See how that's flat under the mattress? Come down 1 foot from the end of the bed, top flap only, straight up, makes a triangle. Everything else gets tucked in. There you go. Looks a little tight on her toes, so we'll loosen that up. And now I'm going to take the blanket away. Anything removed from the bed, we're going to wrap up. Oh, I'm going to take that pillow off and right back. This pillow has been drooled on, sneezed on, coughed on. I probably don't want to put it up underneath my chin. So I'm going to take the pillowcase off. Take a new pillowcase. We're going to scrunch it up all the way to the corners. Tag side goes in. So that tag is going to go at the top. I'm going to put the pillowcase on like a nightcap and then just pull down the sides. Opening faces away from the door. Thank you. All of those people walking up and down the hallway have germs that they're inhaling and exhaling. You don't want those air currents to be able to find a nice, warm, dark, moist place to land. Opening the pillowcase away from the door. This will be thrown away. And here we're going to recycle it. That's away. All right, Ms. Jones, are you comfortable? Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here? I'm going to open the curtain. My environment is clean. Is it called light? You need anything at all, just let me know. Can I get your magazine before I go? Okay. Everything is good. I'm going to wash my hands, think about my skill, make any corrections. My skill is done. Thank you.
When we're doing any of these skills that require us to have what they should do, we're allowed to elevate, raise the bed for the skill as long as we remember to
To
put the
lower it
lower
down.
it to its lowest position when we're finished.
Yes, you can raise the bed to a comfortable working height. No problem.
Does that include the one where we're taking, sitting the patient up?
Well, remember, their feet have to be flat on the floor.
But can we at least while we're turning them around to the sitting position, and then once they're in that, while we're scooping and moving that, and then once they're sitting up, lower the.
I wouldn't,
Okay,
because you have to leave the patient sitting there without touching the floor while you're moving the bed.
okay, all right. So that, in that situation,
I
because the
wouldn't,
patient could fall or.
right? Because there's nothing to keep them there. You're moving the bed and there's nothing to keep them on it.
Okay.
Their feet aren't flat on the floor. They have nothing to hold on to
Okay.
on a moving ride.
Keep arms and legs in body.
Right.
Okay. I do that when I have to transfer to a patient in a wheelchair or a walker going through, especially a wheelchair, keep all hands and legs. And I remember that from the amusement park. I
Yeah.
actually say that to them.
Yeah, I've used that too.
They usually chuckle.
Yep. All right, any other questions on making an occupied bed?
That's simple.
Yeah.
But considering this was easier than having to do it, I'm sure, with somebody that has dementia or can't move.
Well, sure, if you're doing the moving too, yes, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But remember I said that most patients, even if they're immobile, they go get a shower. They get put on a shower stretcher, they go to the shower room, and they're getting showered once or twice a week. That's a prime opportunity for you to make the bed. So anytime you walk into a room and the bed is unoccupied, you need to be thinking, does it need to be changed? You know, save yourself a ton of work. It only takes me less than 2 minutes to change an empty bed.
Typically, with facility, do they do it down? Unless there's like a problem.
Everything is different.
just
Yeah,
depends.
it depends. In a hospital, you may go 4 or 5 days without getting it changed, and yet the roommate gets it changed twice a shift because they have they have COVID and they're sweating it all out. You know, so their sheets are always soaked. So we're changing them frequently. But the other guy who gets in and out of bed by himself, he's been here 5 days and his linens have never been changed. In a long-term care setting, you know, it's probably every 2 or 3 days, depending on if it's an incontinent patient, it's more often. So again, unfortunately, I can't give you one answer that's going to satisfy everything, because the answer is always, it depends.
So it's once a shift. Once a shift, you're gonna be doing at least one bed.
Probably.
They do it twice a week, because they shower twice a week, whoever shower, we strip the whole bed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's much easier to strip a bed when there's nobody in it.
And they can't use like Hoyer lifts.
You can, depends on your facility. If you're going to use a Hoyer lift, there has to be 2 people, one to work the machine that's paying attention to the machine. What do you think the other person should be paying attention to? The patient. That's right, because if all of my attention is on the machine controls, I'm not looking at the patient. And they can get pinched, the strap can break. I mean, there's a million things that can happen. So that's why we have to have 2 people, one to pay attention to the machine. Huh?
I've done it alone.
Unfortunately,
It's the worst.
yeah, I can
I
tell
think
you,
it's hard.
yeah, as an instructor, I have to tell you, you're supposed to have 2 people. But that's why I want to clearly define, that's why you need 2 people, one to look at the machine, one to look at the patient. You can't do both. But in a clinical setting, we already know we're short staffed. I mean, they're making you do CNA stuff because we're short staffed.
They told me to watch the patient,
Yep.
because they watched me about, so I had to do it.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, as long as somebody has eyes on the patient. Unfortunately, I'm going to tell you that a lot of times you'll probably be doing it alone because you can't find a second person to help you. But make sure that you don't get so caught up in watching the machine that you forget to look at the patient. One of the nastiest bruises I ever saw was from a Hoyer lift. The chain, because it's a sling, all of Hoyer lift is, it's a mechanical sling. So you put the sling under the patient, and then you hook the four corners of the sling to a hook, and then the machine lifts up. But it kind of brings them up into a sitting position, right? Well, the chain actually caught the back of the shoulder area, like in the armpit area, and it twisted. And it was one of the nastiest bruises I have ever seen. It was horrible. I mean, I cringed. I still cringe when I think, just the, oh gosh, the pain that person must have felt. Oh, and it was a really, really deep bruise. I mean, it must have taken 4 months to heal. So that's why the rule is in place. You know, I mean, I get it. I also understand that you're short-staffed and you may not always have 2 people. Which is more important, the machine or the patient? Always. So make sure you got your priorities in the right place if you're doing this by yourself. Okay. That makes sense. Isn't that horrible? Oh. Ouch. All right, so now we're going to move on to catheter care. Go to page 114. The reason that I don't teach you about Hoyer lifts, I think your book mentions it briefly, but the reason I don't teach you about mechanical lifts is because, like everything else, it's highly individualized. Every mechanical lift you have to be trained on. So if you go to work in a facility, before you can use their lift, they have to train you on that model, exactly how it works. If you go to a different facility and they say, are you trained on mechanical lifts? Yes, I know how to use them, but not your model. You have to be trained on each model specifically. And that's why I don't have one in here. I mean, it doesn't do you any good, because you still can't say that, you know how to use a mechanical lift, because you have to be trained on that one. And it is this specific. Let me explain to you guys. As a nurse, I can't train you. Doctors can't train you. Physical therapists can't train you. The only person that is supposed to train you on using a mechanical lift is the rep from the manufacturer that makes it. They have to come in and train you on that machine. Isn't that crazy? Because I might get it wrong. It's a possibility. Now I got a lot of stuff up here. Yeah. So that the manufacturer rep has to come in and train you. And if they get new lifts in, you got to get trained on those. All right. So page 114, provide catheter care with soap and water to a female resident with an indwelling urinary catheter. Clean the catheter tubing and perineal area only. And as far as care plans go, that's one of our shortest ones. That's a short care plan. It just says provide catheter care with soap and water. Clean the catheter tubing and perineal area. All right, so let me explain to you what a catheter is, how it works, because if I take some of the mystery out of this, you tend to do better. All right. So a catheter, is nothing more than a flexible straw. That's all this is. Just like I have a straw over here, right? Has a hole at the top and a hole at the bottom, and liquid goes through it. This has a hole at the top, a hole at the bottom, liquid goes through it. The difference is my straw doesn't bend. This does. More comfortable in patients. Very first catheters we ever used were glass, straight glass, like a straw. That was back in the 1800s. Aren't we happy we live now? So this is nothing more than a flexible straw. That's all it is. This end goes in the patient's, okay? This is going to sit in the bladder. How often do kidneys filter blood? All day, every day, 24 hours a day, drip, 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 drip. Those drips go into a bladder. What this does is it goes into the bladder and it sits right above the valve that holds the bladder closed. So this is sitting in your bladder. So all those drips that come down, that hole is going to let that urine go right down this tube. So all this does is bypass the valve. That's all it does. That is all a catheter will ever do. It keeps urine from being in the bladder.
Do folks feel it?
We're going to talk about that in 1 second.
No, I've had it before. When they pull it out, it's like an uncomfortable feeling, like that, but it's not painful.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Yep. Okay. So CNAs do not put catheters in. You don't take them out. Breathe a sigh of relief. That's a great thing. That's a nursing thing. You can be trained. You can be. Right? Remember that as a nurse, I can train you to do routine, repetitive tasks. That's under delegation. As long as it's a stable patient, it's a routine task, and you don't have to think, you can be trained to do this. So let's say you're working in a same-day surgery center. This is where you go in, have surgery, go home that day, and you're working in there. You're going to work in pre-op, you're going to work in post-op. Well, I may train you to take catheters out, because everybody has to have their catheter taken out before they go home. So it's a routine task. These are stable patients. So you might be trained to take catheters out, make sure they pee before they go home. You might be trained to put catheters in. You can't work in her. You can't put, even though you know how to take them out, you don't know how to put them in. So you can't do that job. Does that make sense? Okay. So you can be trained to do these other additional tasks, but you have to be trained. I can't just say, hey, watch a couple YouTube videos and go for it. It's not how this works. It's not how any of this works. Okay, I've got to show you how. We got to talk about things that you might encounter and what to do about them. I want to talk to you about what you have to tell me if you notice, those types of things. And then I got to watch you do one or two to make sure that I'm comfortable enough with you doing it. Now, there's a lot of infection risk here. So chances are I'm probably, as a nurse, going to keep putting catheters in myself because there's an infection risk there. So I'm probably not going to train you to put them in. It's more of a me thing rather than a you thing. But I can train you to take them out because there's less infection risk to take it out. So these are all the things that I'm going to think about as a nurse when I'm deciding what I'm going to train and what I'm going to retain myself. Good. But as a nurse, when I'm going to put a catheter in, it is deflated like this. So this just gets inserted into a hole that's already there. We're not drilling anything new, guys. This is a hole that you pee through every day. Trust me, it works. If it didn't work, you need one of these. Okay. So this just gets inserted into the hole. Anybody remember how long I said female urethra is? About as long as your pinky. So this is not going in very far. It's going to go in males a little bit further. Process is exactly the same. Same tube, same hole. Everything is exactly the same. It's just that the urethra is longer. So it's going to go in a little bit more. That's all. Same process, nothing different. Once we get this into the bladder, though, the urine is going to go into these little holes and come right out. That didn't help us a bit because now we got urine everywhere. So this alone isn't going to help us. What we need to do is attach it to a collection device. And that's what this is. This is a bedside urinary drainage bag. This is what we use in most clinical settings. But if somebody's out walking around Walmart, they probably don't want to be carrying a suitcase of urine around with them. So we use a little bit more discreet leg bags, which you can see on page 116. Top page 116. It's just a smaller version of this, but it Velcros or attaches with elastic band to the leg. So there are people right now walking around Walmart with catheters, and you don't know it. They're hidden under their clothing. Those are also called stadium bags. I'll let you figure out why. Okay, called stadium bags.
Like the booze.
Not for booze, it's so that your diehard fans don't have to take a trip to the bathroom and miss that winning home run. But not all catheters have to be invasive. So below that, you'll see something that looks suspiciously like a condom. That is a condom catheter. It's also called a Texas catheter or an external catheter. These are for men. Ladies, we do not get to enjoy this privilege. This is something that goes on the shaft of the penis, and it allows the urine, so you pee normally, and it just allows the urine to be diverted away from the skin and into a bag, a collection device. So that's why stadium bags exist. The gentleman can put this on, strap a leg bag to his leg, and be able to enjoy all the beer he wants without having to once visit the bathroom.
Why do we call it sepsis?
You know, I don't know the history behind that. I really don't. It's something that I've been meaning to look up, but I don't know the history. But yes, they are quite frequently referred to as Texas cats. Yeah. So this is an indwelling catheter. The other name for this is a Foley catheter. You'll hear it called a Foley way more often. So this is a Foley. A Foley catheter, what makes it different is that it's got this little balloon on the end that we blow up with water once it's in place. So the balloon is deflated. We put the catheter where it needs to go. We know we're there because we see urine. And then we inflate this little balloon at the top with water. You don't feel this. This is inside your bladder. Your bladder is a hollow organ. This you cannot feel because your bladder is hollow. It's like eating one potato chip. You can't feel the potato chip in your stomach because your stomach is hollow, right? So once this is inflated, it sits on top of that valve and keeps it from coming out. Now you pull too hard, and it will come out. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But this catheter is going to be attached to some sort of a drainage device. In our case, it's a bedside bag. So these two pieces just plug in together. And now it's a single system. This part is in the patient. The urine comes out the catheter through the tubing and gets collected in the bag. CNAs generally do not separate these two pieces unless you've been trained to do that. Because the minute we separate these two, we allow bacteria in. Now, if you remember last week, I told you that every bacteria in the world is trying to get into a bladder. You guys remember that? That's what makes catheters so dangerous. If you remember, I told you in your urethra, you've got a couple of bouncers that hang out looking for bacteria. Well, when we put one of these in, the bouncers are on the outside. If the bacteria are on the inside, there's nothing to stop them. Nothing. So one bacteria in this tubing can wreak havoc in the patient because it won't be one bacteria when it gets to the top. It's got everything it needs to procreate. So one become two, two become four, four become 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 356, and so on. So by the time those bacteria jump out of these holes into the bladder, it's not 1 or 2 that's invading, it's 1 or 2 trillion. It would be like all of Canada invading Spring Hill. There is no way you could fight. The numbers are just overwhelming. And that's what makes catheters dangerous because of the infection risk. There is nothing there to keep that bacteria in check before it invades. Okay. All right. So this is an indwelling. It's designed to go in and stay in for a specific period of time. These have to be changed out every 30 days if they're staying in. So every 30 days, this catheter has to be removed and a new one has to be put in place. The bag is going to be changed every week. That's why they're two separate pieces, because the bag has to be changed more often than the catheter. Good. Now, if I just need a urine sample, just a sample, I don't want to put a catheter in and leave it in. Trust me, nobody wants one of these unless they absolutely have to have one. In that case, we're going to use this. This is just called a straight cath. Notice there's no bubble on the end, nothing to keep it in place. So if I put this into a bladder and let go, that's exactly what it's going to do. It's just going to slither right out. Nothing to keep it there. So this is only put in to get a sample, and we have to physically hold it there to get the sample. It's also a little bit more rigid. It's not quite as bendy as the other one because we're not leaving it in. Doesn't really have to move with the patient too much. This also has another name. What is it with catheters and multiple names, right? So remember, indwelling catheter is a Foley. A condom cath is called an external cath or a Texas cath. And this is a straight cath, but also called a Red Robinson. Don't know the reason. It's red. I mean, I know that part, but I'm guessing some dude named Robinson made it. That's all I can think of, right? Don't know. So this is a straight cath. So we have three different types of catheters. Indwelling, Foley, which is the most common. Straight cath, short term, sample only. Condom cath used for men. Okay, good. Okay, so catheters generally should not hurt. They probably are going to feel a little uncomfortable because you are putting this tube, right, this catheter, into a hole that's already there, but we need it to be a snug fit. Otherwise, urine could leak around. And then what's the point of the catheter? Because you got leakage. So this has got to fit snugly in the urethra. So it's going to kind of feel like it doesn't belong. You know, like you got something somewhere that's just not quite right. You know, and a lot of times patients will pull or tug on it because it just feels weird. It shouldn't be there. It's an irritant. But there's another problem with catheters that irritate patients, and that's here. Remember that this is the bladder, right? You got a bladder right here. The only thing that's ever hit the top of a bladder ever has been pee. Your bladder is kind of a dumb organ. It only has two words. That's it. When your bladder talks to the brain, there's only two words: pee and pain. That's it. That's all your bladder can ever say. So normally, 99% of the time, your bladder's like, something's there, something's hitting the top, it's got to be pee. So it sends the pee signal. Well, now when we put a catheter in there, the tip of the catheter is going to hit the top of the bladder. So the patient's going to feel like they got to pee. It's very common when a catheter goes in a patient, very common for them to hit the call light and say, oh my gosh, I got to pee. A lot of CNAs will say, just go, it's fine. There's no going involved. They aren't going to like consciously go. If they try, they'll be sitting there for like 20 minutes trying to figure it out. There is no going here. That's a normal sensation. Don't tell your patient just go, because then they're trying to figure out how to go. Just that's very normal. The inside of the catheter is hitting the top of the bladder, and it just triggers that pee reflex. It's okay. If you get distracted, like you read a book, watch a movie, take a nap, do so, in 10 to 12 hours, that sensation goes away. No longer irritates you. But notice I said that the bladder had two words: pee and pain. Pain is different. If your patient says, ow, it hurts, that's different. Ow, it hurts needs to be reported now, not later, now. Anybody ever have a Charlie horse in your leg? You ever get a muscle cramp in your leg? Okay. In a small percentage of the population, very small, but I can't tell by looking at you who's going to get this trigger. But in a small percentage of the population, when we put this into the bladder says, nope, you don't belong. And it spasms to try to push it out. It sees the catheter as a foreign intruder. And it's a Charlie horse of the bladder, people. When I say pain, I mean on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 42. It hurts. Now, that's not a CNA problem, is it? You want to hand that problem off to the nurse like now. We don't want to deal with that problem. So as a nurse, I've got to figure out how to fix it, because we can't let our patients feel that this is not humane. So I've got to figure out what to do. In most cases, I'm going to see if I can take the catheter out. I mean, you're not tolerating it. Is it strictly necessary, or can we work around this? So that's my first try. Can I take it out? If I have to have it in, positively have to have it in, then there's a medication that I can give the patient that puts their bladder to sleep. Puts it totally to sleep. No more pain, great, right? But medications have side effects. One of the side effects is that the bladder may not ever wake up. It's a bad day. It's like a bad life. So I've really, really, really got to be careful about how I'm going to handle this situation. Does that make sense? But your job is, if the patient says it hurts, you need to let me know right away. Sometimes your patients will pull it out. It does happen. You tug on this hard enough and it will come out. But you got a balloon this big going through a tube that big. You are going to have tissue tearing, blood, urine, Don't freak out. Your patient will take their cues from you. If you go, oh my God, what did you do? Your patient is now DEFCON 10. They think they just did something really bad and they're never going to recover. So relax. It's all right. Things heal. It's fine. So be pretty chill about this. Okay. But you want to save this whole system. You need to put it in a bag. Now, in the bottom of every trash can in a facility are a whole handful of clean bags. So just take the current bag out, reach in, grab a clean bag, and put this whole thing in that bag. The reason that you want to do that is, as a nurse, this could either be an okay problem or a not okay problem. If the whole thing came out like this, and I can see the bubble and it's still inflated, life is good. I can work with that. I got to figure out what I'm going to do, because I've only got like 45 minutes before swelling sets in, and then I'll never get another catheter in. So don't wait. Don't take a break and then tell me right away, because I've only got a little bit of time to figure this out. Can you imagine peeing through that? Ooh. Oh yeah, razor blades. Ow. So I probably want to get another catheter in there if I can. But if I've got a confused patient, that may not be the best option, because now they're going to pull that one out too. So I got to solve some problems. But if the catheter came back all like this, I'm good. That's an easy problem that I can work with. If the catheter comes out like this, that is not a problem I can work with, because the balloon burst. That means that part of this catheter was left in the patient. That's a problem. That's a we need minor surgery to go in and retrieve it problem. The only way for me to know what kind of a problem I'm dealing with is for you to save the catheter. Okay. Make sense? Questions? So once you know what catheters are and how they're used, cleaning them, it's easy. All we have to do is clean the tubing and clean the skin around the tubing. We already know how to do this. It's called pericure. So you're going to use your leaves. You can take a look at each of them. Pass around. Yeah. So we're going to do pericure, and we're going to clean the tubing where it exits the body. And we'll use the leaves method. So if you want to clean the tubing first, that's fine. If you want to clean the body first, that's fine. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. However you want to do this. But when you're cleaning the tubing, hold it where it exits the body. That way you're not pulling it on the inside. So we're going to wipe away from the urethra 4 times. So we're going to wipe, fold, wipe, fold, wipe, fold, wipe, fold. Whatever we wash, we got to do something before we dry. Rinse. So you're going to rinse the same way. Wipe, fold, wipe, fold, wipe, fold, wipe, fold, and then you'll dry. And then you're going to do pericure. Middle, side, side, skin fold, skin fold. Wash it, rinse it, same way, dry it. That's it. That is it. Now, when we're working with catheters, you want to make sure that you keep them below the level of the hips, though. You raise a catheter up above the hips, you are recycling urine because whatever's in that tubing is going right back into the patient. That's pretty high on my gross meter. I don't know about you. I don't want recycled urine coming back in. Okay. So catheter bags always stay below the level of the hips. You also want to make sure that the catheter tubing is coiled on the bed, not near the floor. Because if the catheter tubing is near the floor, feet can get tangled up in it, and then the catheter can get ripped out. You don't want the bag near the floor either, like close to it, because you don't want bacteria to be contaminating the bag. Make sense? Patients do occasionally pull catheters out. Yes, they do. But CNAs pull way more catheters out than patients do. Think about it. We're transferring out of bed and into a wheelchair. If the patient has a catheter and it's on the other side of the bed, you'll pull it right out. Ambulate with a gait belt. If the bag stays on the chair, you'll pull the catheter right out. Turning a patient over in bed to change the sheets, you'll pull the catheter right out. Thank you. So it's really easy for us to dislodge the catheter if we aren't super careful. And that's the biggest part about catheters. Bye-bye. See you Wednesday. Don't forget to bring the blue book back. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Bye. So CNAs pull way more catheters out than patients. And that's why we have to be super, super aware of whether the patient has a catheter, where it's positioned. And if we're turning a patient over in bed, always look for that catheter. If the tubing is coiled on the bed, you've got more maneuvering room. It's less likely for it to be pulled out. Now, catheter care is one skill for the test. We're going to clean the catheter, clean the tubing, easy peasy. Emptying the drainage bag is another skill. They tend to go together in a clinical setting. If you're doing catheter care, you're probably emptying the bag. But for the test, they're going to separate them out and count them as 2 separate skills. So when we empty the bag, there are markings on the bag that, will tell you how much urine is. But those markings are not precise. You cannot use those for measuring. It's just for a quick eyeball. In order to measure, we're going to empty the bag into a container. We're going to take the container to the bathroom and measure it on a barrier, on a flat surface, at eye level. So that means we're going to put it on the lid of the toilet, and we're actually going to get down and measure it. You can't stand up here and do this. You actually have to get down and measure it at eye level. Now, in medicine, we measure in cc's. also called mLs. Remember we talked about that? cc's and mLs are the same thing. We do not use ounces. This is the cup we're going to use. This is called a triangular graduate container. Graduate because it's marked in graduate markings. Triangular graduate container. So on one side of this, you'll see there's ounces. We don't use that side. The other side is cc's. They're marked in 50s. So here you can see the line for 200. And here you see the line for 250. The line in between would be 225. You're going to round to the nearest line. Doesn't matter whether it's up or down, nobody cares. Round to the nearest line. Remember, it has to be on a barrier, on a flat surface, at eye level to be accurate. So when we're emptying the bag into this cup to measure it, the bag is hanging on the bed. Remember, we can't separate the bag and the tube. Remember, those two things stay together. So there's a port on the bottom of the bag. So this is hanging on the bag. You've got this port on the bottom of the bag here. This is how we're going to empty the bag into the container. When you remove this port from its little house, this cannot touch anything. It can't touch your hand, your gloves, the chucks on the floor, the bed, the bag. It can't touch anything, and especially not the inside of the graduate container. So you've got to make sure that this emptying port stays touch free. And then when you're done, you're going to close the port and then put it right back in its little house without letting it touch anything. Okay.
Is there something at the back of the thing you with your thumb to open it?
Well, I'm going to show you the opening now.
Oh, okay.
So this is a T valve. This right here is how we open and close the T valve. So if you slide it to the side, okay, if you look through there, you can actually see that there's blue. You can't see through it yet. When I slide this over, which I can't do with my left hand, now it's open. You can see through it. Okay. So I would take it out of its house, open it, empty it. Before I put it back, I'm going to close it and then put it back into its house without touching anything. Let's play with that. We used to clean that port with alcohol before we put it back. And some of the older videos will show you that. If you're looking at somebody else's videos, they'll show you that too. That is no longer a acceptable process. We have found that the alcohol actually dries out that polymer material and can cause microcracks because alcohol is a drying agent. So it dries out that plastic and it makes it more able to harbor bacteria. This is why medicine is always evolving, because we're always looking to improve. Remember, when you're opening that, you don't want to be touching the port part. Pull it out of its house. There you go. Let's slide the valve to the side. No, don't see where your index finger was. Can't touch that part.
I had a hard time doing it with my hand.
Yeah.
Because you'll be able to use two hands
Yeah.
because it'll be hanging. So you.
Right. Yeah. The bag will be hanging. So when we empty the bag, you want to put a chucks on the floor put the cup on the chucks. Make sure that you have gloves on anytime you're touching the cup, or anything urine related. So we'll put our gloves on, put the chucks on the floor, put the cup on the chucks, open the valve, empty the bag, close the valve, put the port back where it goes. And then we're going to take that cup over to the bathroom. But remember, we talked on bedpan that you can't carry an open container of urine through a room. So we're going to wrap the chucks around the container to take it to the bathroom. Set it down on the toilet seat, open the chucks, read it, and then we're going to dump it in the toilet because that's where urine goes. We're going to clean the cup the way we clean everything else, put it back, make sure that the bag isn't on the floor, the tubing is coiled on the bed, and then you'll just do your closing and document.
In a clinical setting, is there like a standard, like the bathrooms, like the special like cleaning solution? Because I know like
Again, I got to use the same. It depends. It really does. In hospitals, no, most of the time you're just going to rinse it. Just rinse everything out and store it. In nursing homes, if your patient has some sort of a contagious disease, you'll be using a cleaning solution. Yes, yeah, you can. The regular soap that's in the room, you can certainly clean anything with that.
I feel like I feel just
Oh, me? Yeah, I don't like just rinsing stuff and putting it back because that drawer is warm and dark and whatever we just washed is moist. And that's just like pathogen central over there. I don't like it. I don't write the rules. I just teach them. So in my facility, if I ever own a long-term care facility, it will be run properly. My staff will be attentive, and they will all understand the patient condition, and everything will be clean before it's put away. But I simply don't have time to run my own facility yet. I'm working on that cloning machine in my basement, but right now we have to work with what we have. Okay. All right, so any questions on catheters or drainage bags? I'm going to show you both of these videos, one right after the other. Okay, and that's going to finish us up. Last two skills. You guys ready? Ready? I know we covered a lot of information this morning that I really wasn't planning on. Sorry about that, running a little late. But I think it's all good information.
Yeah.
That's the problem with skills-based classes like this, is that we don't have a whole lot of time to get into discussions, It's me every time. I think this thing needs a new battery.
together my basin and soap. And a set of gloves. All right, Miss Jones, I'll just get some water. I'll be right back. Okay, would you like to check the water temperature, make sure it's okay? It's good? Good. I'll place the washcloths in there to stay warm. And I'm going to cover you with a privacy blanket. This is going to help protect your privacy and keep you warm while we do this together. And I'm going to pull your sheet down to about your knees. Okay, Ms. Jones, I'm going to place this pad underneath you. This is going to help keep your bed dry while we do this skill. First, I'll roll it toward me. Place it on the bed. And then I'll put my clothes on. All right, Ms. Jones, can you scoot toward me, please? Thank you. And can you roll onto your left side? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Going to be very careful, making sure that the catheter tubing rolls with the patient and doesn't get pulled on. I'm going to unroll the chucks underneath the patient's hip and have the patient come back onto their back, making sure that they don't lay on their head or tubing. Miss Jones, can you scoot to the middle of the bed, please? Thank you. Miss Jones, can you scoot toward me? Thank you. And roll up onto your right side. 1, 2, 3. And now I can unroll the chucks to protect the bed. Come on back, Miss Jones. And scoot to the middle of the bed. Thank you very much. Okay, now I'm going to start cleaning the catheter. I'm going to roll your gown up inside the blanket. I will be exposing you, but we'll make this as brief as possible. Please let me know if you're uncomfortable. As I roll the gown in the blanket, I want to make sure that I don't grab the catheter, that we don't cause any unnecessary pulling or stress on that catheter. And now we'll cover her thighs with a towel. This exposes only the area that we're working on. I'm going to take the first washcloth and wring it out. And apply soap to 4 leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to clean your catheter. I'm going to hold the catheter where it exits the body, wrap the washcloth around, and wipe away from the body. Fold that leaf over. I'm going to hold it, wrap the washcloth around, and wipe away from the body. That's 2. We're going to do this 2 more times. Away from the body. 3. And the last one. 4. I'll set this washcloth aside. Whenever we wash, we must rinse. So I'll bring this washcloth out, and we'll use it to rinse that catheter the same way we wash. I'm going to hold it where it exits the body, wrap the washcloth around, and wipe away from the body. We'll do this 4 times. 2, 3, and 4. Set this aside. Now we'll dry the catheter. Now we're going to do carry care. We'll take a washcloth out of the basin, bring it out really well. And we're going to soak 5 corners. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the back side is 5. Okay, now I'm going to clean the carry area. I'm going to lift the catheter up out of the way with my pinky and hold the labia open while I clean down the center with the first leaf. always going top to bottom. And then we'll remove the washcloth and fold that leaf over. Now I'm going to clean down one side of the labia, top to bottom. Fold that leaf over. Clean down the other side of the labia, top to bottom. Fold that leaf over. I'm going to clean the skin fold between the groin and the leg. Fold that leaf over. And clean the other skin fold between the groin and the leg. And then set that washcloth aside. I'm going to take the final washcloth and bring it out really well. And we're going to rinse all of those areas the same way that we washed them. So I'll pull that catheter out of the way and spread the labia open, laying down the center, top to bottom. Pull that leaf over. Clean down one side of the labia. Pull that leaf over, rinse down the other side of the labia. Pull that leaf over. We're going to rinse the skin fold. Pull that leaf over and the other skin fold. Set that aside. Now we'll dry gently by patting dry top to bottom and then removing the towel. Ms. Jones, I'm going to cover you back up. I'll unroll that blanket, which will replace the gown over the patient. I'm going to make sure that the catheter and the tubing is coiled on the bed, not near the floor and not where the patient is laying on it, making sure it's not pinned. Ms. Jones, I'll be right back. I need to dispose of your supplies. The towels and washcloth will be placed in dirty linen. The basin is going to be cleaned the way we clean everything else. We'll return the basin to the drawer, and on the way we'll pick up the soap. We'll open the drawer with a paper towel and return the basin to its storage area. Now I'll dispose of my paper towels. Okay, Ms. Jones, I need to remove the chunks from under you. Can I get you to scoot toward me, please? Thank you. And can I get you to roll up on your left side? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. I'll roll this soil chest toward the patient and tuck it under her hip. Come on back, Ms. Jones. And scoot back to the middle. Making sure the patient is not laying on that catheter tubing. Okay, Ms. Jones, can you scoot toward me again, please? Thank you. And roll up on your right side. And I'm going to remove that chunks from the back. Okay, you can scoot back to the middle. Thank you. This is going to be thrown away. Okay, Ms. Jones, let me just look at your catheter one last time. Make sure that the catheter tubing is coiled on the bed, that the catheter is not on the floor. Everything looks good. I'm going to remove the chunks from the table, and we're going to throw this away. And then I'll remove my gloves. We'll throw those away. Okay, Ms. Jones, I'll put your sheet up now. And I'll remove the blanket as I do so, rolling it into a ball. You put this in dirty linen. Okay, Ms. Jones, here's your call line. If you should need anything, just let me know. Are you comfortable? Can I get you anything while I'm here, like magazine? I'm just going to open your curtain and wash my hands. After washing my hands, I'll think about the steps of my skill, make any corrections that need to be made, and then tell the evaluator my skill is done.
This is super short. It's only like 3 minutes.
students. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you? Great. I need to empty your urinary drainage bag. Is that okay? Okay, I'm going to close your curtain, wash my hands, get my supplies, and I'll be right back. For this skill, I'll need a barrier, which I'll place on the floor under the drainage bag. I'm going to need a set of gloves. And I'm going to need a triangular graduate container. I want to inspect the catheter tubing to make sure that it's coiled on the bed and the patient isn't lying on it and it's not hanging, but also that it's not hanging near the floor where somebody might get their feet tangled up in it and trip or accidentally rip the catheter out. This catheter looks like it's in the appropriate position. We'll now remove the cord from its protective sleeve on the back. Sliding it out to the side will open the cord. We can now position this open cord over the graduating container and tilt the bag slightly to the side to allow the contents to drain into the graduating container. While doing so, we want to be careful not to allow that cord to touch any other surface. Once the urine bag has been emptied, we'll slide the cord back to the side to close it and very carefully insert it back into its protective sleeve. We want to make sure that the bag is hanging on a non-movable part of the bed and it's not touching the floor. We can now fold the chunks over the graduate container for safe and secure transport to the patient's bathroom. Once we're at the patient's bathroom, we're going to set the graduate container down on a barrier on a flat surface and position it so that we can read it. We need to be at eye level, and we're going to round to the nearest line, either up or down. You can see that the urine in this container is nearest to the mark of 425, so the amount that we will document is 425 milliliters, or cc's. Once we've measured it on a barrier on a flat surface at eye level, we can now empty the urinary graduate container. We'll throw the barrier away, open up the toilet, and we're going to dump the contents of the graduate container into the toilet. Now we're going to rinse the graduate container. We'll deposit the rinse water into the toilet as well. Now we can clean. After dumping the rinse water into the toilet, we'll set it down. Use a paper towel to pick it up. Paper towel to dry the outside. A paper towel to dry the inside. We'll discard this and move on to the drawer. We're going to place the graduate container in the bottom drawer and close the drawer with the paper towel. Okay, now I'll throw the paper towels away and remove my gloves. We'll throw those away as well. Thank you very much, Ms. Jones. Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here? A magazine, perhaps? You have your call light there. If you should need anything at all, please feel free to let me know. I'm going to open your curtain, wash my hands, and document my skill. Thank you. After washing my hands, I'll document on the intake and output sheet that the evaluator gives me. I'm going to document the time of output, the type of output, which is urine, the amount of output in cc's, and my initials. After documenting, I'll review the steps of my skill, make any corrections, and then tell the evaluator my skill is done.
This thing updated and now I don't know what to do with it. All right, any questions? Any questions?
I don't think I was here when you did the leaf or the.
Okay.
I don't remember.
So this is just a regular square washcloth.
Okay.
Okay, so fold it in half and fold it in half again. And this is how they're stored on the shelf unit. But instead of looking at it as a square, which is how we normally look at it, I want you to look at it as a diamond. And if you have the leaves, the open leaves at the top, you tuck one side in between your thumb and index finger, the other side in between your pinky and ring finger. Now you can clean, fold, and now you have a new cleaning surface. So you wipe, fold, and a new cleaning surface.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like two of them. I didn't know.
No, just
Okay.
one washcloth. It actually gives you 5 cleaning surfaces.
Okay.
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the back side is 5. Any others? No? You guys graduate on Wednesday? An employer is coming in to talk to you guys on Wednesday. So about 9:15, I'll give her about 10 minutes to state her case. You are in demand. And please remember to bring your blue books back because you'll need to turn those in. I will be giving you a graduation folder to make sure that, so that you have everything that you need. But and I'll be going over this on Wednesday again, but on my website, foryourcna.com, under after testing. So right now we're under the training tab, right? So under after certification. So there's training, there's testing, and then after certification. The very first link there says local employers. That's for Hernando County. So in that local employers page, I have every employer listed, every healthcare employer, from nursing homes to hospitals, to pediatrics, to home care. They're all listed in there. And if you click on the link, it takes you right to their website for you to apply. So I've taken all the work out of it for you. You don't have to go search, what's Oak Hill Hospital's website. Just click on that and it takes you right to their hiring page. So not just to their website. I mean, I actually found where you have to go, apply. I did all of that for you. So that's all there and accessible for you. And we'll go over that again on Wednesday. Okay.
Do typically, like, let's say you're interested in like a rehab or like mental health, do they usually want you to have like prior experience with like a nursing home or something?
Everybody wants prior experience because let's face it, when you're new, you're slow. I mean, that's normal. Everybody wants prior experience, but they will take you without it because the shortage is just so intense right now. Yeah, you are. Yeah. They don't, it's not that big of a deal. But here's the other thing. Yes, you're a little bit faster when you've got some experience. You know how to give a bed bath. You've got some practical experience talking to patients. It's not new anymore. But it doesn't matter where you go to work later in your career. Let's say you're at CNA for 5 years and you switch into the hospital. You still are going to go through orientation at the hospital because they have a different way of doing things. And then you take a weekend job at home care. You still have to go through orientation with them. So everywhere you go, you're going to get a training period. Yeah. Good question. Take that personality quiz, guys. It will help you tremendously. It will help you. On my website, it's under training. It'll be listed as your ideal workplace, but it's also on the front page too.
The website is the one that sent us at the initial part of it.
It's foryourcna.com. So on the back of your book, down here where the logo is, says foryourcna.com.
Oh, okay.
It's also on the front of the book, in the little computer at the top corner.
Okay.
That's my main website. Then you've also got courses as well on the inside front cover. Bye-bye. I'll see you on Wednesday. I hope you have a better time at work.
Yeah, tomorrow work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the room is now yours for practice. And if you can't practice, if you have to go, then I will see you on Wednesday. Please be in uniform. I will take a class photo, so keep that in mind. Yeah, so the way this works. So to make hospital corners, you're just gonna take the sheet. You want to lift the mattress up and tuck the sheet so it's flat under the mattress. So you can actually see how the sheet is flat under the mattress. Okay, not just down. Then you come down about a foot from the end of the bed. Don't grab down here. We don't want this. We want the top flap only. Take it straight up. There's your triangle. Everything else will get tucked under. So on that side, lift the mattress up and tuck the sheet flat under the mattress. Get the top flap straight up. Tuck everything else in. There you go. That's a hospital.
During this scale, are they gonna be like?
They're not picky. Just get the corners off the floor.
So they're not looking to see.
No, I want you to make a good hospital bed because I am an old nurse. But no, you're not being tested on how nice it is.
All right, y'all, have a good one.
Bye-bye.
You said they've got the supplies pretty similar.
It's gonna be set up just like this. So your top will be grooming,
Okay.
middle, bathing, bottom toilet.
That makes sense. Head, middle.
Right. Yep.
Now, when you're doing the catheter care on a female and doing the peri care, will we have them turned over on